All right, King Killers, we're covering chapters 9 through 10 from the Wave Kings in this episode. We got a great Kaladin heavy episode here as we find him distraught after living in the hell that is Bridge 4. Then we get a flashback chapter where we see him as a 10-year-old with his father Lirin helping him to perform a surgery. And we also are going to tell you about times where we've had it just as rough as Kaladin. We try to figure out what's up with feet fetishes, tell you all about Lirin's side hustle, and we come up with a great cast for an adaptation. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the King Killer podcast. Dan, got with me Island Boy Tim. What's going on, Island Boy?
I don't know what to say. I'm good. I'm not. Yeah, okay, I'm good. I'll be an island boy one day. I'll go to an island, and then you can call me Island Boy. I've been to islands before. I'm not on an island now, but
you have to step up your rap skills, though. You're not quite on their level.
Killing it. Yeah. I don't know if it's rap.
Dropping
they're
bars.
Kind of singing. I wouldn't say they're dropping bars because they're not doing any verses. Unless it's a two bar max is what they're going with.
Yeah, your hair and the face tats you got down like that. You're set on. You just gotta learn how to spit bars like them.
Put on some weight. And, get a vest.
A lot
I
less
guess.
shirts.
Talk about
you gotta wear very, very seldomly wear a shirt. And you gotta be in like hot tubs and stuff all the time.
We're talking about these guys. Why are we talking about these fucking guys?
Because they're
ridiculous.
Pop culture phenomenon. They're gonna be it's basically like the new version of the New Kids on the Block. They're gonna live forever.
Yes, because that's what the New Kids on the Block have done. They're living forever.
Yeah. Beatles, New Kids on the Block, Island Boys.
The Beatles and the New Kids on the Block you're putting in the same category?
Boys. Yeah.
I mean,
legendary groups that will live through the ages.
No,
that
these are all...
Everybody plays their music almost on a daily basis. Everybody listens to them.
These are all carbon-based life forms. That's about the bulk of what they have in common.
Well, agree to disagree.
No, I'll disagree to disagree.
Oh, yeah, it's not allowed. But what? So yeah, let's get an update on where you're at.
Nah, don't feel like it. The latest, pretty big. Shallan got the Soulcaster to work. It seemed blood all over the floor. So then she faked a suicide attempt. That was pretty gnarly. And so basically the last part that I listened to was Shallan was sort of like complimented her Yasna basically like complimented her that she legit thought she was able and whatever, but it seemed like Shallan might be cutting out because it's the perfect opportunity to be cutting out. That's kind of where that ended, if I remember right, and pretty big on Kaladin. His story arc, it goes back and forth, obviously. What I just listened to, he could have taken a shardblade, and he said, "Fuck that noise," and walked away.
Oh, so you finally got the have you got the full backstory on that event, or was the last thing he took the guy out?
Basically the last thing was, I mean, it sounded like it was the first time he had seen shard plate, the way he described it. But I wasn't sure if that was the case, but the way he described it sounded like it was. And he was like, I could get a blade in that eye hole, basically, would be the place, and he fucking does it. And then as he walks away, people are like, "What are you doing? Like, take the shard blade." And he's like, fuck that noise. That was kind of,
okay.
If I remember right, that was kind of the last part that I remember.
Yeah, you haven't got the second half of that story to finish up. Is how he became a slave. You got that that he killed the shardblade guy. So, that's a dope scene, like where it talks about him like fucking his spear gets cut in half and he slides under the blade and catches the broken shaft of the sphere and then just spins and jabs it straight in the fucking dude's face.
Dude, I mean, the whole thing, the fact that he's the only person that basically doesn't hesitate. Everyone else is fleeing for good reason.
Well,
I mean, he's wiping people out.
His crew helped. His crew tried to help. They just got wiped out.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
like this dude
him
just
and his crew. Yeah, we're the only ones. Everybody else is jetting in fear, and he basically doesn't stop. It's fucking incredible, man. And then like the way he's able to write the physical, like what you just described, the physical activity that he's in the moment, the battle itself is tremendous. It's really, really quite great. Really great. Yeah, and then I've had a few more chapters where it goes back to him as Cal. I don't recall exactly where I was on that. But yeah, I mean that's basically the last that I can recall. There was another mentioning of Zeth, but not directly. But whatever. I mean, it's
All right. Well, and so we're gonna start with chapter 9. It's titled "Damnation," and in this chapter, Cal is he talks about what is going on in Bridge 4, what his life is like in Bridge 4 now. It sounds pretty awesome. And then, Cell ends up leaving him, and, it's just a very sending Kaladin down a very dark path, this chapter.
Yeah, it seems like it's hitting him with the realization of where he's at.
It's basically like, if you're super hungry and then you get in line and you're in like a real long line to order food, and then you get up there and you're like, give me like a 10-piece chicken nugget, and they're like, hey man, we're out of chicken nuggets.
Wow.
It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that. You had your heart set on something and it didn't happen. They should have other food, but that's not what you wanted. Yeah, it's like that. Real gut punch.
I mean, after a long line, it's one thing if you just like go in, boom, and they tell you they don't have chicken nuggets. But what if you're like in line for like 30 minutes?
Yeah,
just think about those nuggets. You just keep thinking about them.
Yeah, it's like finding out that this place that you've reached in your life is certain death. Very close, very similar, feelings, I'm sure.
Yeah. Basically, he's getting fucking tortured and everything. It's like I felt that before. I felt that same exact pain.
That time where I had my heart set on food and it didn't get exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, had to order something else. It's a fucking huge disaster.
Yeah, that and like the example we used before, having to work a Friday when you didn't think you were going to have to. Yeah. Pretty brutal.
Work a weekend, get called in to work the weekends. Oh. Fucking torture. But yeah, so this chapter, it starts off with 10 people with shardblades of light standing before a wall of black and white and red. Collected Jezeshef, 1173, 12 seconds pre-death. Subject, one of our own ardents. Overheard during his last moments.
So a couple things. The 10 people with shard blades of light, that sounds like a massive event, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how often does that... we already know shard blade, how rare it is, how powerful it is. So 10, like, together, that sounds like something huge. For me, something that is telling me I'm having something else revealed. Subject, one of our own ardents. So is it the ardents that are chronicling these death rattles? Is that what I'm led to believe here?
I mean, it could be an ardent, or it could just be someone in that area, and they have ardents in that area.
You mean locale? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
Oh, I don't. Well, I do know. I don't want to spoil it, but
these all seem foreshadow events. The wall of black and white and red also feels like something I'll find out eventually. What this is, where they are, and all that. But Yeah, it's cool how he gives you these details, and we've seen it at least once or twice. One of these death rattles did play out, and because I'm up to this point in the books, you're seeing some of the foreshadowing coming to life.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear like one of the instances where Kaladin's trying to save someone,
Mm-hmm.
and then they fucking, this is like when he first decides, after he decides he doesn't want to kill himself, and then he comes back, takes over the crew, then like he tries to save one of the guys that took a wound during that next run,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the guy, there's a death rattle during that moment.
Yeah, they're cool. It's a cool little motif that he's done here. I don't know if I've read. I mean, there's a lot of books I've read that they have little introductions like this to sort of set the scene. This is different. This is quite different in the sense that it's just a motif that weaves throughout that doesn't necessarily have much to do, at least that I can tell now, with the particular chapter we're in.
Yeah.
But, it's a cool thing to sort of, to weave throughout and to have it be part of the story that builds things out further.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's, they're basically obviously notes. Someone's taking notes on, what people are saying right before they die. And they're, saying these prophetic things or seemingly talking about the past or the future or the present, or, there's clearly some kind of prophecy type of thing to it. And they're taking notes on it. You just don't know what's going on. And that, gets revealed later what's going on and all that kind of stuff. But it comes up towards the, end of this book. But yeah, so in the beginning of this chapter, like for Kaladin, he starts relating just how miserable their life is. I mean, so like his Kaladin had not been assigned to Bridge 4 by chance. Out of all the bridge crews, Bridge 4 had the highest casualty rate. That was particularly notable considering the average bridge crews often lost 1/3 to 1/2 their number on a single run. So they're losing, 15 to 30 people or so. They got about somewhere usually in the neighborhood of 40. So they're losing somewhere, 12 to, 20 at a time. That's, and then you're talking, say 10 plus crews. So 120, 200 slaves, are dropping every single battle for this crew that they got to replace.
Yeah, that's brutal. And having the realization of that, obviously that's what, paints this chapter is so bleak for him.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, what's the point?
Now, obviously, some of the runs, they're not losing people if they get there sooner, they get there too late, get there sooner than the Parshendi, or get there too late. They're not losing anybody. But, man, if they're doing any kind of, if they did like 10 runs a month, they're replacing at least 1,000 fucking slaves a month.
Yeah, that's Jesus. Well, and I guess we get that here too, like bringing in new fodder, right? Where it's like they just constantly are picking up slaves. They're criminals or, deserters, soldiers being demoted, that sort of thing. So it's just, I mean, it's basically a death sentence is what it is. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, just that the idea of losing, 1,000 a month, say 10,000 plus a year. And that's not counting all the soldiers. That's not counting other crews. Like, it's not like Sadius is the only high prince. So you got all these other high princes, they're losing soldiers. They're losing, it seems like, man, for 6 years you've been doing this. Obviously Sadius has started to use the bridge crews differently. This is somewhat new. So we don't know how big the losses are for crews that are run differently. Like Dalinar's crews they're not losing bridgemen like this. But if most of them are adopting towards what Sadius is doing, man, that's a lot of fucking people you got to replace every month.
Well, and it seems like in their world, or this at least in this region, there's not a whole lot of things. I mean, there's farmers, there's one surgeon we know of. Clearly, there's going to be more, and there's got to be other jobs because they're making weapons and all these other things. But it seems like a shit ton of people that they go into being soldiers. It doesn't seem like the men do a lot. They don't do a lot unless they're ardents. They don't read, right?
Yeah.
So they're not studying things. We don't know of theater or entertainment at all. So at least again, I haven't read that yet. So it seems like, I guess they have the bodies, but it inevitably brings up the question that gets dealt with here, where Kaladin's like, all right, so what's all this fighting for? What's the real point of this? Is it just gemstones? They mention, what did that have to do with the Vengeance Pact? And it almost felt like his questioning of it almost seems like, is it false reasoning? Like what's literally, what's the goal here? And he's not getting clear answers when he's asking, because they treat him like a fucking slave. So,
well, yeah, and if you're looking at it from his perspective, you wouldn't understand it, because you're just like, well, how is this winning a war? We're just we go run out and we get a gem heart and then we go home, and we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And it's like, it doesn't seem like the mission is to destroy the other army.
Yeah. And so,
but he's not getting he's missing a couple of things. Like, he's missing the economics behind it. He's missing how much they need those gemstones to be able to produce food for these armies. Because it would simply not be possible if they didn't have soul casters to field an army this big. It's an agrarian society. They just could not produce enough food to feed and, replenish an army without soul casters. I mean, that's how he gets around that limitation. It was without soul casters, without that ability, then none of this would even be possible.
Well, it seems like a pretty vicious cycle too, because it's all about soul casters and shardblades, it seems. And then if it's all about that, then it's constantly just trying to gain enough gem hearts to be able to keep these things going. And as long as that continues, then we can keep doing this until it seems like it's not worth it.
Yeah, obviously a large part of it is it's a war of attrition. They're just, seeing who will break first. And they both need the gem hearts, obviously. And so, for different reasons, but they both need the gem hearts. And you in a battle like that, where you're just shedding people left and right, and you're just constantly going after these gem hearts to get to be able to produce food for your army to hold that up, then you're just, at some points, something's going to break. Someone's not going to have the troops to send out to battle. So eventually it's just, but this is 6 years it's been going on. So at, 6 years, you'd be like, well, what the fuck are we doing? Like, how long is this going to go? Is this going to take 50 years to win this war?
And what's gained at the end? Is it territory? What is actually going to be gained at the end of the whole thing anyway? Is it location? Are they gaining area? Are they fighting over a physical location on the Shattered Plains? Because it doesn't seem like they're just trying to wipe out bodies, right? They're going for gem hearts.
Yeah, location seems like they're there because the Parshendi are there. It doesn't seem like an ideal location as far as, to raise a community. I mean, the big thing that they have in that area is the gem hearts. Those beasts are there. They go up and, and in large numbers where these people can, hunt them down and get those gem hearts. So that's obviously an extremely valuable resource. But as far as it's not like fertile ground for, growing food and raising up a community. So it's not like super ideal location as far as that goes. So this is just, this is where the Parshendi went, which is obviously, it's a very defensible spot for them because they can jump these chasms where, the humans got to fucking cross with bridges. So it's much easier for them to traverse the land. So it doesn't seem like the ideal spot to be, but so there's that aspect of it, the hunting down the gemstones, and it's a war of attrition, but there's also the complacency. These guys are just making money now. They're making money off this war. They're collecting those gemstones. The gemstones make them money. And so they're bringing in, supplies and markets and all this kind of stuff. So they're building an ecosystem out of this war. So that is part of it as well. Is now it's just has become their way of life. This is how they're making money and shit. And all these gemstones, they don't want to give those up. So that's an aspect of the battle as well. Is just the complacency and the money. It's like they went to start a war and they found out the fucking place has oil.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, now we're not fucking leaving.
Well, and it's also just it's true to our world, the military complex itself, whatever the functionality is, if it's making money, they want to keep this going. That arm of whatever it is, whether it's military or anything else, if they're getting funneled cash, they want to continue this, endeavor because they're getting cash, and that's what they do. Even if it's a massive waste for the rest of society, they're just going to keep it going as long as everybody else will allow it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of I like that he put this in the book, because it's something that some people don't tend to, for some reason, recognize. It needs to be pointed out.
I mean, if you remove the gem hearts, then they can't do this. They have to go hunt the Parshendi down and fight a decisive battle if they want to take them out. They can't just sit back and keep going on these little battles where they fight little, smaller skirmishes, get a gem heart or don't get a gem heart, and then fucking retreat and come back and do it again, and just over and over they keep doing this. So, a lot of people are dying on both sides, but obviously if 6 years have gone by, then they each side's able to replenish enough to keep it going for a while. But if you take out the gem hearts, then no, they can't do this. They have to go fucking hunt them down and fucking take them out. So that's that property changes the whole dynamic of the war.
It seems like the Parshendi, on an individual basis, they're better warriors, right? They're more lethal as an individual, right? So if that's the case, then also what sort of balances it out, seems, is the shardblade is a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if they have a guy with a shardblade, then suddenly, they're able to wipe out a shit ton of Parshendi. It's cool that he does that in terms of, the balancing act between, we've seen that in our own wars where you can have an extremely well-trained army, but if somebody else has artillery or some other type of advantage, they can wipe them out.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Actually, I really like what we're talking about in terms of just that military complex continuing, and also just sort of not questioning it, because in the next chapter, if I remember right, I think it's Cal talking to his father, and that's kind of the question. Like, Cal's this young patriotic kid who's just like, he's pushing that patriotism without thought towards what it really means. And his father's, who's lived a lot longer and has, dealt with people who have dealt with injuries or lived with injuries, is, he's kind of speaking of that empty honor sort of situation. So yeah, it speaks to that sort of war of attrition aspect, where it's what's the end result, and is it worth piling up all these bodies and killing all these people and wasting all these resources?
Yeah, and obviously, it depends on who you ask. Like, if you ask,
obviously,
fucking Sadius, it's worth it. And the high princes are making money off this war, so it's worth it to them. Yes, Kaladin, he's probably gonna have a different view. And that's why he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand it, because he's not getting any benefit out of it. There's no positives for him through this.
And that's what I like, again, about so much. If you ask Cal, he has a completely different aspect towards it. He's like, nobody gives a shit about surgeons or farmers. It's the soldiers that have the story. And he's a young, idealistic kid. He wants to have that story attached to his name. So he'd rather be a soldier. Right?
Yeah.
And this is before, if I remember right, this is before he's trained with a spear. So he doesn't even know. He just has this inkling that he would rather, he'd rather have the fame and the glory. And it seems like that's where the fame and glory is, because those are the stories he's hearing from the kids in the neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah, and he's discounting the fact that the farmers might not have stories told about them, but they don't go to sleep and wake up in cold sweats at the nightmares of things they've done and seen done. Yeah. So yeah, no one's gonna tell any stories about them, but they're gonna be able to fucking sleep at night.
Again, he's a kid.
Yeah.
So that really speaks to it. He's great. I mean, like putting these two chapters, you're starting to build out. I mean, we're 150 pages, right? So we're starting to build out the world further, kind of what he's doing thematically, and then Sanderson's doing thematically, and then seeing. It's interesting too because they're both pretty dark chapters, especially this one.
Well, it's interesting too because in this chapter, obviously, he's seeing all the dark side of it. I mean, it's just he's looking at it from completely all the negative aspects of it. He's not seeing where the benefits would be, and he's not able to see it at all. And then in the next chapter, which is a flashback, he's looking at it from the all benefit side. He's not thinking about the costs, and so it's kind of a flip as far as how he's viewing.
Well, it's what you were saying. It depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to again. And then also, like, as we read on, he becomes inspired and a leader and camaraderie, and all of it comes out of this place, right? It's just a different perspective. He takes on a different perspective towards it, and then he has a purpose, but then he gets blasted back down again, which we'll obviously get to. But that seems to be a motif with Kaladin's life here.
Yeah, he's obviously struggling at this point because, he doesn't see a purpose to the point where he's like...
He didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel here, for sure.
Yeah, and he's like, of the 25 men who had survived his first bridge deployment, so say 25 out of 40, 23 were now dead, 25 of the original 40 lived, and then 23 of those died. And so it's just him and another guy. And then they replaced two of the guys, and put them in a different group, but then they died. Then, they replaced his crew, and then all those people died. Then they replaced those people, and then all those died. And it's just like he's surviving, but he's seen everybody come in is just getting wiped out to the point where they don't even bother to learn each other's names because it's like, what's the fucking point? This guy's gonna be fucking dead tomorrow. And then like he makes the comment like, maybe I should learn their names so I have someone to talk to in damnation.
Yeah, that seems to be again about as dark as you can get, where it's like these are the guys that he's fighting with and should naturally care about, and they should naturally care for each other, but then even that is too painful because it becomes, what's the point? If they're just destined to die, then you're just making it worse for yourself. That's pretty it's pretty depressing.
Yeah.
Plus, and then also, and you stack on top of that what we already know, that all these people he's tried to help, they died. Everybody's cared about, they die. Like man, this dude, he's no wonder he's sitting in the rain at the beginning. We didn't talk about it at the beginning of the chapter. He's basically sitting in the rain, knowing he could just get up and go inside, but he's just sitting there in the rain, like listening to REM. Everybody hurts. Like, whatever. What's the point anyway?
Yeah, he's being a big baby. He's really being a big baby about this.
I love how we make light of it with our chicken nugget bullshit. But if you put, the stacking of things that would cause depression, and then knowing and finding out, and also continuing to read and find out just how capable this dude is. Like with what I just read, knowing this is after that, fucking shit, man. Like,
and he's been
such an interesting character.
He's been there for 2-3 weeks, an eternity. He doesn't know how long. And he's still that's a long time to be a baby. Like, I got over the chicken nugget thing, like, within a week. But yeah, he's hanging on to this. And,
well, he's 19, right? Isn't he 19?
Yeah, he's a kid. Yeah.
So cut him a break.
Take that into account. Yeah, but it also talks about, like, the replacement. So they got slaves coming in, and then they also have criminals that are just hangers on that follow the army around, kind of in this new market that's been built up. There's criminal elements in there, so their criminals are getting added into the mix with the slaves, and then soldiers who do something egregious are also, part of the mix.
Yeah, they describe it as like
a lot of people they got to replace.
They describe it as like this is the worst punishment for a soldier is they get assigned to the bridge crew, and they do also describe it as basically slave and bridgemen are like the same status. Basically,
yeah.
I mean that's the way they describe them. It's it's pretty brutal.
And then
you're talking about the war camp. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and then so he's talking about like the bridge run. So sometimes the Parshendi get there, late, and they're able to set up before they can sit down and start launching arrows at them. Other times they get there too late, and if Sadius shows up and there's already another army there, he doesn't join the fight. He doesn't have, so these high princes are not helping each other. They're basically it's like 10 separate armies. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, they're not fighting together at all. And so if they show up and another army is already there fighting for it, they just turn around and leave. And then there's also the aspect of if they see a bridge crew is looking weak, like they fucking launch some arrows and they hit a number of guys and that bridge is looking a little weak and it's leaning, they will focus all their attention on that bridge crew and take them out and knock that, the Parshendi. They will target the weak is basically what they're doing. If they see a weakness in the bridge crew, they target that crew and try to wipe them out. So that's where he's looking at that as like sometimes you get a break and, they focus all their attention on bridge 3 instead of, fucking bridge 4. And
but it sounds like bridge 4 gets the brunt of it typically though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's because
they get the worst of the worst, basically.
Yeah, that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, is because they keep giving them weak people, and so the Parshendi are going to focus on the weak. Obviously, that's one of the things he mentions. That's what they're doing. So if you're put all the weak people in one group, and the Parshendi are focusing on the weak, then that crew is going to lose the most. It's not luck. It's a matter of you keep fucking putting a big target on their back. By how you're filling out their crew.
Well, and it does. So this whole section is big on like kind of explaining how it works. So we do know that the sure way for death is don't do what you're supposed to do with the bridge crew, right? If you don't march, they'll kill you. Other than that, you're basically held captive in the war camp. You're not allowed to leave unless you want to go to the chasm to kill yourself. They'll let you do that.
Yeah.
That's the one relief they give you is to commit suicide.
Which is awesome. That's kind of nice of them.
I mean, I guess in a way it's, oh man, that's really, I mean, in a way it's their way of showing some admittance of this is how bad this shit is. It's so bad that we understand if you just want to off yourself.
Trust me, they're like, I wouldn't want to do it either. I don't blame you, buddy.
Jesus, man.
Life sucks.
Oh man,
wouldn't want to be.
Well, and then I think they even go as far as stating the rumored thing that they've been talking about for a while, where they say 100. You make 100 runs, they'll let you go, or basically you get upgraded, right? You're not in a bridge crew anymore. But it sounds
that's
like
the
that
rumor.
Never happens.
No one, no one's heard of anybody actually it happened to anybody. And if you think about it, he's been there a few weeks, and
there's no way
he's seen everybody get wiped out multiple times.
Yeah, nobody's making 3 other than him. No one's making multiple runs.
Yeah,
and then the one guy that he dies in this chapter. So he's the last one left. I was going to say, when we talk about it, just how bad it is, it's no wonder he just hates all the Light Eyes. And I know I'm going to get more reasoning for that once we find out about Amaram and stuff. But clearly, like, he's got to hate somebody. There's got to be somebody that's the focus of why the fuck does the world suck so bad for Kaladin? Why is it so bad? He's got to focus it on something. So, it makes sense just in that sense.
Have you got to why he's in Amaram's army?
I guess yes. Oh yeah. So that was the last one. It was very much what's the fucking Hunger Game type thing with with Tien gets called, so he fucking volunteers. And so I got that. And then the other thing that I forgot to mention, and maybe this was right where I ended, when you mentioned Sadius and the crews don't fight together, there was a scuffle with a prostitute, and it was red and blue. One group was red, one was blue, and they basically were fucking at arms together. And then
it was
Dalinar?
Dalinar's kid.
Yeah.
Dalinar's
crew
Annelin,
versus,
right? Yeah.
And Kaladin. He threw some fucking gems. He threw an emerald.
Adolin.
Adolin.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It was Adolin and versus one of Sadius's crew. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sadius
threw that coin at fucking Kaladin. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it was an emerald.
Go fucking
like
deliver this. Yeah. Go deliver this message for me.
And he's still like,
yourself.
Yeah, he's still like, go fuck yourself. It's pretty funny. Yeah, Syl's like, well, I mean, he seemed pretty decent. And actually, in the thing, he seemed really decent as compared to Sadius's crew, looking like fucking pieces of shit scumbags. And still, Kaladin's like, yeah, fuck him, though. He ain't gonna use me. What am I, fucking his errand boy? Fuck this guy. They had even, what do you call him? He called him like Bridge Boy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it would have set me off a little bit too. Just throw money at me, snapping fingers. Hey, Bridge Boy.
I don't play.
Hey, Bridge Boy, go do my fucking errands. Like, no.
I had one job where I used to like build furniture and shit, and one of the guys like did that to me once, and I was new. It was like my second day. And it was like everybody that was in the crew we worked with, I don't know, they must have talked about it to some other people, because some other people that I hadn't met yet were like, oh, yeah, you're the guy you don't snap fingers at, huh? I was like, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, what the fuck? That's a rude fucking thing to do, man. Yeah. You can talk to me. You can ask me to help you. But, yeah, I'm not your fucking errand boy. I guess I must have really got mad. I don't know. But,
I wouldn't have dealt with that well. But one aspect we get that seems like a pretty sweet aspect of their lives is they can spend their meager earnings on cheap wine and horse. So they got fun and games.
There's some, yeah. I guess they got some fun and games. Some distractions.
If they survive that first bridge run, might have to survive like 2 of them. But if they survive and they get a little coin in their pocket, they can fucking have a little night out on the town.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture. I mean, this is a war camp. Now, it's been there for, 6 years, so I guess it has probably been built out. But I just have to imagine your options are very limited in this area, man.
You're probably not fucking pulling in dime pieces and fucking prostitution camps for the slaves. Like the prostitutions for the slaves are probably not dime pieces. I'm guessing. The higher quality prostitutes are probably shacking up with the light eyes.
Yeah, and they're probably staying in towns where it's more comfortable, I would imagine. Most people would rather, I think.
If you're in that profession, you might want to be near the soldiers.
I guess you're going where the money is, yeah. But even like, yeah, well, I
now
even
the question I would wonder is like if you were beating someone down that much, if like you're just completely stripping them of their will to live, like are they really fucking wanting to bang one out? Like, I don't even see, like, you would think that desire would just be gone. Or at that point, you'd be just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why? What's the point?
The way Kaladin sounds, yeah, I don't see him getting too excited. I could see him turn into some alcohol. I could see that. But he doesn't seem like that dude either. So, but I could definitely, I could see myself doing that. Turn to some booze if it was this bleak. But
I don't know how I would
brutally
react,
violent.
because I mean, if you're just torturing me and my life is just a living hell, like every moment of it, I'm probably gonna go into like a dark depression where I'm not gonna want to fucking get up. I'm gonna be like Kaladin, just fucking sitting in the rain or fucking laying in bed and fucking going through those hello darkness, my old friend.
I hate that song.
It's gonna be one of those moments at all times.
I mean, I like the idea of what Kaladin does do, which is let's get bulked up, let's get in shape and
Yeah.
fucking do this shit like better than anybody.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine being
I
able
see.
to.
I love Kaladin and I respect the shit out of that. But when I try to put myself in the position of if I was in the crew with him and he's like sitting there trying to fucking pep me up about being a fucking slave who has to run bridges, man, I'm going to be the last one that joins him.
Well, I was gonna say I was definitely understanding all the guys that are like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. Get
Yeah.
out of here. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
getting up. Like, I'm gonna sleep as long as they let me.
Yeah.
I'm like fucking getting up and doing extra work. What are you, out of your fucking mind?
Yeah.
Like, just so I can feel like, and they're not looking at it from the perspective of so I can feel better when I have to do the real fucking struggle for my life work. It's just more like, dude, let me at least enjoy this moment. And the enjoyment would be sleep.
And he's just trying to give him a purpose, and he's also through that purpose, through that fighting and struggling to get better and stronger, that also makes him more likely to stay alive. And so they're losing less people. So there is reasons to follow him, and he's right. But you'd also, if you just think of yourself in that state, and you got some fucking dude like, all right, guys, let's go for our morning workout.
I'm not the first to join.
Rise and shine, slaves.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the first to join. I mean, picturing that, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to imagine. Other than you're standing in line at McDonald's analogy.
Yeah,
I can picture that.
And it's exactly like that, man. That's I think of that dark moment. But I also think about like there's when he starts like picking dudes up and throwing them out of the tent and making them get up, and he does it to like Moash first and just like fucking latches him up and then throws him out there when he wouldn't get up, and then the other guys grudgingly get up, and then Gaz tells them they don't have to fucking listen to him, so they fucking go back.
Yeah.
But when he like picks him up and throws him out there, I remember like at a bar getting, when I was like 21, just got obliterated for someone's 21 birthday, got obliterated, and then I just like sat down in the middle of this bar, just gave up. It's on the dance floor, and then it just like all hit me at once, and I was just like sat down. So some bouncer picked me up like underneath my arms and like lifted me up, and then literally threw me out the door. And I hit the ground, and I just immediately just laid on the fucking sidewalk right where he threw me. And I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Pillow move.
Yeah. And so like we had to have, whoever drove like pull up and then fucking toss me in the back seat. But that would have been me. Like when I see Kaladin like throwing Moash out the tent, it would have been like as soon as he fucking throws me, I would have hit the ground and just laid there. Like, go ahead, man. Fucking pick me up and throw me all you want. I'm not fucking doing this shit.
I think it really depends. So in that case, that was my plan is to get as drunk as I can as quickly as possible. So that is going to be a different state.
Yeah, to clarify like exactly what happened. It was I'd been getting up at like 3 a.m. every morning for this job, and so I wasn't drinking. And this girl was turning 21. She kept begging me to fucking go to her birthday party. And so I finally was like, all right, I'll go, and I'll just go out and I won't drink. And then I'll go, or I'll drink a little bit before I go, and then I won't drink at the bar. And then I'll go straight to work. So 21. So my idea of like drinking before we go a little bit was to bong 6 beers in a row. And so I bonged 6 beers, and then I went to the bar and I got a beer, and then I went from dead sober to I can not stand at once.
We were drinking in the RV on the way there. I remember that.
Yeah,
we were all drinking, and I think we were taking shots and shit. But I remember you were looking pretty. I
went from sober to obliterated like out of nowhere. It all hit me at once, and so. That's why I was just like, nope, my body is done.
Yeah, I have to say, that's the first time I've ever seen anyone sit down on the dance floor. I was selling it like it was a dance move. I was like, no, like, he's having fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty great. And then, yeah, when you just would not get up off the sidewalk, it was like, oh, okay, so he really is done. I mean,
if you already take me where I'm not gonna really give a shit what other people think, and like strangers think of me. So that's not a big concern of mine. So yeah, if my body is like I'm done, yeah, then I'm not the right person to have in a bar because I will just sit down and be like, especially at 21, where I really didn't give a fuck what anyone thought. Yeah, I was completely comfortable fucking if everybody's fucking pointing and laughing. It's like, I don't fucking care. I don't care what any of you guys think. We'll never see you again. It's irrelevant to me.
So what I was saying, though, that's a different state of mind. And then if somebody picks me up against my will, my reaction is to react violently with anger and violence. So
I'm sure, but here's the thing. Kaladin's, fucking probably 6'8" and big as shit. What am I going to fucking do against that guy?
Yeah, well, that's what
reacting violently is just going to get my ass kicked.
No, but that's what I was thinking in terms of where he's starting here, how it's like, this is a sure way to die. Then you might just go out with, okay, fucking murder me, man. Like, fight until
that
you
would,
die,
that would 100% be my mentality.
And you just basically,
I'd give up.
Well, I think you just basically focus on, all right, is it Gaz? You focus on the person that you're like, I'm going to kill this person until they kill me, and then just kill. Until
everybody watches, everybody reads this, and they're like, I would be Kaladin, or I would want to be Kaladin, but I know I would not.
Yeah,
I would quit.
Yeah, it's nice to think you're the hero. Most people are not the hero. This guy's one in a billion. Not that kind of
hero.
This guy's one in a trillion, maybe.
Yeah.
The idea that you're that guy, get the fuck out of here. That's just not realistic. Yeah, we all idealistically want to be. But in reality, what would you actually really do? Everything's taken from you. Everyone you cared about is taken from you. Everything you had is taken from you. And you're 19? I had some anger issues back then. And if you take everything away from me and it's not deserved, and it's completely unjust, I don't have the patience to play the long game.
Put it this way. It's not just one time they don't have chicken nuggets. It's every time.
I think it's a little worse than that. But yeah, I see where you're going.
Same exact thing, man. I see where
you're going. It gets worse.
Oh.
It gets worse throughout the chapter for old Kaladin.
So that's kind of the mindset, and then Sel comes up to him. She's like, Kaladin? So ass floating down and landing on his leg, holding the girlish form with the long dress flowing into mist. Kaladin, you haven't spoken in days. Kept staring, slumped. There was a way out. Bridgeman could visit a chasm near the camp. There were rules forbidding it, but the sentries ignored him. It was seen as one mercy that could be given to the bridgeman. Bridgeman who took that path never returned. Kaladin, Sel said, voice soft, worried. My father used to say that there are two kinds of people in the world, Kaladin whispered, voice raspy. He said there are those who take lives and those who save lives. Sel frowned, cocking her head. This kind of conversation confused her. She wasn't good with abstractions. I used to think he was wrong. I thought there was a third group, people who killed in order to save. He shook his head. I was a fool. There is a third group, a big one, but it isn't what I thought. What group? She said, sitting down on his knees, brow scrunched up. The people who exist to be saved or to be killed. The group in the middle, the ones who can't do anything but die or be protected. The victims. That's all I am.
Yeah, once he describes it in that way, that's where I'm like, all right, Kaladin, you got to shake this shit. You can't be that guy. You can't be. Yeah, and you can't be like, I'm such a victim. Like saying it in those terms. Yeah. Once you can have that self-realization, if you say it in those terms where it's like I've become the victim, that actually is inspiring, or at least it should be if you're that individual. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't, and they play the victim role for fucking ever. But once you read that, it is kind of like that moment of like, all right, well, fuck that. I'm not going to be the victim. And then you have a choice. That's when you kind of realize the choice, right?
Yeah. I would say. Yeah. I mean, he just says, we exist to be killed if we're not dead already. But yeah, if you take the position that I'm the victim, it's a bad spot to be in.
It could take forever. It could take a very long time. But what you need to know in that very moment is I have to shake this shit. I got to get out of this position and this mentality, because you won't if you've created that for yourself. You're just gonna sit in that shit forever, and then what?
Yeah, you're gonna have a rough fucking life, man.
Then like at that point, pity is your is your out. That's your out, is pity and others' charity.
You're gonna have a rough fucking life, man. It's very hard to view yourself as a victim of the circumstance, a victim of other people.
Well, and
it's a very, very bad way to live your life.
And what's so fucking terrible is everyone can. There isn't a single person that isn't a victim. Everybody's a fucking victim in some way. In some fucking way, every single one of us is, because we have to eat or we're gonna die, right? We all have. There's certain things that we have to do, so we're victims to some degree. But I mean, it's a mentality thing, man. And that's a real bleak existence, and it's
not even a glass half empty. It's just an empty glass mentality.
Glass ceiling. Yeah. It's a glass ceiling of like, I can't do anything because blah, 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 all these things that hold me down. Like
XYZ are going to prevent me from doing what I want to do. Now, granted, Kaladin is in a position where I probably would feel like him. I would feel hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what I was saying earlier. If it's unjust and you're the one being, that's where it's pretty bad. Like when you know what I'm saying. But I mean, if you have everything taken from you and you got fucked, and I know I haven't gotten
forever out of McDonald's. Forever out of McNuggets. You're a victim. There's nothing you can get. You can't get out of that. Like,
well, I can tell.
Like, or like if someone throws you in Guantanamo Bay and you're fucking just being tortured every day, you're going to feel like a victim, and you are, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're not getting out of that. Now, you read stories about people that were put in these horrible positions, put in like the concentration camps or the gulags or Guantanamo Bay, the people who've been tortured, innocent people who never did anything wrong, who were tortured, and they didn't give up. And those people are fucking, it's heroic, but you look at their stories and you're like, how did they not fucking give up?
Yeah.
But those people who survive, like, they had every reason to view themselves as a fucking victim, and they were victims, in many circumstances, but they didn't give up, and they didn't see that as like this is just how, this is my lot in life, and there's nothing I can't get out of this. They didn't give up. They didn't give up hope. And so you see people who can be in the worst fucking possible environment and get out of it and stay and flip the mindset around of they're going to fucking survive. Mm-hmm. And that's why you can see someone like Kaladin do that, or see real life people do that, and you respect the shit out of them and you admire them because you know how fucking hard it is. Because even when you're not put in those kind of situations, you can still become a fucking depressing fucking person that always thinks the world is out to get them. And you can see the world grind down people who don't have it near as bad. But they get through it, and they fucking push through. And that's why you respect them.
Well, and it's also inspirational because anyone that's lost anything, anyone that had a good job, lost it, and now they're making less. It's fucking depressing as shit, and it can be a vicious cycle where then it's hard to get pulled back out of that, or pull yourself back out of it, because now you're a victim of some circumstance, So just any of those stories can actually serve that great purpose of just inspiring people to be, just get a little bit better. Just look at things as just the littlest fucking movement in a better direction is positive.
Yeah, he does a good job with this story with Cal, because like it's just a slide straight down through the first 11 chapters, and it's just he's sliding straight down the whole fucking time. And just when you get to the point where it's like this chapter and then the next one, it's like, man, this is rough. But then by the end of the next chapter we get with Cal, in this time, like chapter 11, not in the next chapter, but in chapter 11, once he gets to the chasm and he decides I'm not going to fucking jump, then it starts swinging back up. So does a good job of like, because he couldn't have done this for much longer. He couldn't have kept fucking kicking Kaladin forever. And eventually it just becomes too dark and depressing. And then it's like, what the fuck is this? This isn't even epic fantasy. This is becoming like torture porn.
Well, and there's little segments. I mean, first chapter of Bridge 4, he doesn't lay down. He stands up and massages his muscles. He also makes it through it. You know, that's the key. Is he makes it through it, even though it's like this is fucking insane. How is anybody doing this? And stands up and it's like, how the fuck are we gonna go back? Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell is this? But he makes it back, you know, and it's not as bad. Yeah. And Gaz ends up being super fucking cool. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Gaz is super fucking dope, man. And then so Syl comes up to him and she goes, I hate seeing you like this, Syl said, buzzing about Kaladin's head as the team of bridgemen dragged a log into the lumber yard. The Parshendi often set fire to the outermost permanent bridges, so High Prince Sadius engineers and carpenters were always busy. I like, too, the way Sanderson layers in some just kind of the mechanics of the army. You know, that why, you know, all these little menial jobs, like why are they collecting wood and shit? It's to replace the bridges because Parshendi go and burn the permanent bridges and, you know, but they're not protecting the bridges. And so there's always, he just adds in the little dynamics of what's going on in the army without like, you know, talking about it. He just kind of mentions it offhandedly. But then you get into, you know, the old Kaladin might have wondered why the armies didn't work harder to defend the bridges. There's something wrong here, a voice inside him said. You're missing part of the puzzle. They waste resources in Bridgman's life. They don't seem to care about pushing inward and assaulting the Parshendi. They just fight pitched battles on plateaus, then come back to the camps and celebrate. Why? Why? He ignored that voice. It belonged to a man he had been. So, he pays a cost for ignoring that voice. He doesn't fucking put it together before he switches, you know, has him change up tactics and carry the bridge sideways. He has not figured out why they do what they do. So he's not prepared to do things, you know, in a way that he could get away with it.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit ironic because he just basically hasn't accepted just how bleak his position is, I guess.
Yeah,
because they literally are fodder. That's the whole point, is their targets. And he's at least
he's trying to play a game without knowing the rules, and that's a big fucking problem.
Yeah.
And so it ends up costing him that he doesn't think these things through. He's not putting himself in the position of Sadius and like, what would I get out of this?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's part of the character. He seems to be, he's so emotional that his emotions run roughshod over, you know, I understand chicken and nuggets and all that.
Yeah.
You know, it's killing him emotionally. But again, all of it's understandable. But it's nice to be put in that position where you see it, because I mean, characters that constantly do well in everything that they do, even though they're challenged, still not realistic. The fact that he's short-sighted in some of these senses is much more realistic.
Well, yeah, and it's also because the way he views light eyes. I mean, that's like he has such a negative outlook on them and perception of them that he's not thinking through like, okay, what do they have to gain out of it? Why would they do this? He's just thinking like, these fucking people are bastards. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, he's blinded.
They just do it, you know.
Rage.
They just do it because they don't fucking care, and that's not the case. I mean, you know,
there's motivating factors.
Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about his life or the life of the bridgeman, but they're not just fucking just gonna waste lives for no fucking reason. They would want you're at least money to them, your value to them as a commodity. So they're not just gonna throw you away for no fucking reason. That's stupid.
And he's right there about to figure that out, but then stops, like you said.
Yeah.
Because so what? Yeah, and it's twice. He's questioning, because it's like, so what are we doing here? Like, so what? Like, really, why is it like this? And he's getting there. And he did also ask questions about why they don't get shields, and he gets some short answer like, you know, it slowed them down. It's like, yeah, but still, And then they're like, you ask again, we're going to string you up.
Yeah.
Which is good foreshadowing as well, because that makes him fucking legendary as shit in everybody's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he talks about like the punishment. And so the punishment for most of the things, there's, you can have your pay docked, or they can, fucking beat you or whatever. But he's like, the only thing that really will get you killed is refusing to run. And so he's like, the message is clear. Charging with your bridge might get you killed, but refusing to do so will get you killed. And that's not that much of a punishment to me if I'm living that life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was in that situation, I would cling, white knuckle it and cling to my life. But I have to feel like at some point it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
And you would think like the suicide rates would have to be through the fucking roof.
Yeah. Yeah, you would imagine so. I mean, especially... I mean, I guess that first run, right? So many guys die in those first 2 runs. So then it doesn't matter, right? Because by the time they realize, oh, I'm not going to make it fucking through this. The odds are so far stacked against me. What the fuck's the point?
Yeah.
That's a problem. I mean, knowing that is
and
a major
it's not
problem.
just I won't make it through this. I'm going to fucking like take an arrow in my fucking arm or leg or get trampled to death. It's like you're guaranteed you're not ending well.
Yeah, these are brutal ways to die. Yeah,
and a lot of these people are probably not dying, from just the shot. It's not like fucking these Barshini are just barreling arrows into their heart.
Yeah,
probably fucking wounding them and bleeding out and fucking dying of dehydration or with infections. Yeah.
Septic wounds. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's brutal.
So yeah, it would be tough to get me to go on the runs, but yeah, so it's not fun. But then yeah, so they go and
well, I was going to mention though, you skipped over. So Syl is remembering, or she's saying, you used to be vibrant. So many looked up to you, Kaladin, your squad of soldiers, the enemies you fought, the other slaves, even some light eyes. And that's pretty shocking for Kaladin, because he's like, wait, what? Like, how long have you been following me? Because, why does she remember this? Right?
Yeah, because there's a part in the first chapter that I think I mentioned. I'm fairly certain I mentioned it in the first episode, where like that kid is watching him, Sen is watching him, and he says it looked like, there's something around him or something like that. And I was like, that's probably was Syl.
Granted,
is what he was seeing.
But what I'm saying is Kaladin didn't recognize it.
Oh, no. I know. I'm just saying, like, he's like, how long has she been watching me? I'm thinking like that was her probably. And so she's probably been with him, the whole fucking time he's been, in the army.
But this further builds out Syl in the sense that she can remember, right? So like, again, it seems like these are not supposed to be things she's capable of.
And it seems like, her memories are coming back to her.
Yeah.
More and more, like each progressive chapter, she becomes, more. Like he talks about like, complex conversations are difficult for her, but as you get further in the story, the conversations with her become more and more complex, where she's able to understand more concepts and things like that. So she gets smarter and has more memories as the story goes along.
Yeah, I guess I feel like her leaving here has some real significance that I'm not seeing yet. Like there's why? Where'd she go? I guess we don't need to go there yet because there's some other stuff I wanted to mention before we get to that literal part. But
well, yeah, because right before she leaves, he sees a group of men come up, and then he sees one of them, and he says Tian, and he whispered, taking a step forward. He stopped, shaking himself. Tian was dead. But this newcomer looked so familiar with those frightened black eyes. It made Kaladin want to shelter the boy, protect him. And so it's another mention of Tian. We still don't know who Tian is, at this point. It's obviously his brother, but, he talks about like Tian was dead.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we know going into it that Tian's going to die. We just don't know how yet.
It's funny where I'm at now. You realize every kid that looks young and scared, reminds him of Tian.
Yeah.
So he's saving all these kids that are basically worthless in battle, but he's saving all of them because he's trying to save his brother, basically.
Yeah.
Which is pretty.
Well, because they even talk about that in the very first chapter when like his captain is talking to Sin, and Sin's like, "Why me?" And he's like, "I think you guys remind him of someone."
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's a part mentioned here where new bridgemen were constantly needed. There were always enough bodies. Slaves were common, but so were thieves, lawbreakers, blah blah blah. Never parshmen, which is interesting because. And they even go as far as they were too valuable, and besides the Parshendi were some kind of cousins to the Parshmen, better not give the Parshmen workers in camp the site of their kind fighting. Where I got to just recently, I got to a chapter where they do have a Parshman added to Bridge 4. And initially, and this is right after they decided we're going to make a run we're going to try to get the fuck out of here and fight our way out. I'm going to start training you guys with spears. And they kind of ask, everybody else is like, well, they're basically not going to treat the Parshmen as one of them. And Kaladin's like, no, he's one of us. He's in Bridge 4, so he is one of us, no matter what. Which it's going to be interesting to be able to read, to get further through that, because it is starting to build out the Parshmen, where initially they're basically described like they're cattle. Like they can talk, but they basically don't. Super big. And useful, obviously, and they're useful slaves. But it's interesting that they are related to the groups they're fighting, but they seem to be just not intelligent or capable.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to this individual added into their group.
Yeah, they're very robotic. I mean, there's not much of a mind seeming to go on. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of thought process. Obviously, they have some kind of mind because you can get them to do things and get them to, do. And some of them talk. They don't say much, but they're not, they're not normal fucking people.
Yeah.
There's something different about them for sure. But
sorry, I was going to mention I'm interested to see if there's an evolution within this one individual, because still a human being, so you never know. I don't know. And Kaladin seems to be he's capable of all kinds of shit, so I'm interested to see what happens in that circumstance.
I wouldn't say they're human beings. They're humanoid species, but they're a different species than humans. And they're got, you see like their skin is like armor, like the Parshendi, when they find like their skin is armor. It's not like they wear armor. It's like it's like a shell.
Yeah.
And their skin is marbled skin. And so they're different. They're not like regular humans.
Yeah.
We would see them as aliens. I mean, for 100%. We would not look at them and like, that's just another human. That's an alien.
And they would see us as aliens, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but they'd be wrong because we're fucking normal and they're not. But then Syl decides to leave. Says Kaladin. Syl said, landing on the log, "I'm going to leave." He blinked in shock. Syl, leave? But she was the last thing he had left. "No," he whispered. It came out as a croak. "I'll try to come back," she said, "but I don't know what will happen when I leave you. Things are strange. I have odd memories." "No, most of them aren't even memories. Instincts. One of those tells me that if I leave you, I might lose myself." "Then don't go," he said, growing terrified. "I have to," she said, cringing. "I can't watch this anymore." "Try to return." She looked sorrowful. "Goodbye." And with that, she zipped away into the air, adopting the form of a tiny group of tumbling, translucent leaves. Kaladin watched her go, numb. So, yeah, they're talking about, like, she's talking about she'll lose herself, and then when she comes back, she talks, "I almost lost myself, almost couldn't come back." And so, yeah, there's something going on there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it kind of stands out, especially, well, Yeah, I mean, there will. I feel like there definitely will be something sort of revealed there that will come back in the future. But I
For
will be
sure.
patient.
We'll definitely find out what the fuck's going on
And
and
that,
what's up with them.
I like that. So Kaladin watched her go numb, and immediately after, the youth, the one that reminded him of Tian, died during the very next bridge run. It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting worse and worse for him in this chapter, man. He's just getting nut
Yeah.
shot after nut shot.
Yeah, he's like, it was a bad one. Kaladin charged the chasm, not even flinching as men were slaughtered around him. It wasn't bravery that drove him. It wasn't even a wish that those arrows would take him and end it all. He ran. That was what he did. Like a boulder rolled down a hill or like rain fell from the sky. They didn't have a choice. Neither did he. He wasn't a man. He was a thing. And things just did what they did. Another bridgeman had fallen nearby, bristling with arrows. It was the man who'd lived through Kaladin's first bridge run all those weeks back. His body slumped to the side, lying on a stone outcropping a foot or so above the corpse of the boy. Blood dripped from the tip of the arrow sticking out his back. It fell one ruby drop at a time, splattering on the boy's open, lifeless eye. A little trail of red ran from the eye down the side of his face, like crimson tears.
That's pretty brutal.
Fucking brutal.
That's
a brutal. That's a very grotesque scene. Like you can vividly picture that, like a dude with an arrow sticking through him and just the blood dripping into the kid's eyes, lifeless eyes.
Wide
open
open
on his back, dead.
eyes. Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough. Like all of this shit is bad enough, and you like throw that in there, and Kaladin. You just picture like Kaladin looking at this, like, damn, dude, like this dude is. This is bad. This is bad shit to get through.
Yeah, you picture him like looking at it, not even like horrified, just numb to it.
Yeah, it's like that this makes sense. Yeah. This now makes sense with everything, with all this fucking awfulness. This now makes sense. That's a really bad position. That's like when they don't have barbecue sauce, is what that's like.
Yeah. It's not like they have the nuggets, but they ain't got that fucking sauce. Yeah, and then I can't keep going like this, he thought. Fuck, yeah. See, exactly like barbecue sauce. Like, I can't just keep eating plain nuggets.
They're like dead inside.
I need the fucking barbecue sauce. Yeah. I'm dead inside. As sure as if I'd taken a spear through the neck. The storm continued its tirade, and for the first time in over 8 months, Kaladin found himself crying.
So next time
little baby.
Next time you go to McDonald's and they say we're out of barbecue sauce, tell them to take a knife and stab you right through the neck.
Yeah.
Just stab me right through the neck right now.
Just get it over with. Like, put me out of my misery. I'm dead inside right now.
Man, I'd love to see the person's face. The reaction, like, what the fuck?
Act this line out. Like, just be standing there like, oh, I'm sorry, sir, we're out of chicken nuggets. Like, I can't keep going like this. I'm dead inside. As sure as if I'd taken a spear through the neck.
Like, do you have a knife?
Sit down and just start crying.
Hand them a knife and be like, just slit my throat. Just do it. I can't take this anymore.
Cannot keep going on like this.
You know what probably would happen?
This is the third McDonald's today. Where are the fucking chicken nuggets?
You know what I bet happens? You get 3 free McRibs.
Yeah. It's all worth it in the end.
You know what? I'm a believer again.
Yeah.
I'm whistling as you walk out the door. Walking on sunshine.
Yeah.
It all turns around. That cashier behind the register just,
saves your life.
Yeah. It's that easy, folks. It's all it takes.
Yeah. That cashier coming through with the fucking McRib. It's like, Syl coming through with the poison leaf.
Yeah. Or the slap in the face when he's laying on the ground about to die.
Yeah, but that just made him get up. That poison leaf really turned his spirits around.
Yeah, okay. Well, when he wasn't going to get up, it seemed like that's it. Like he's not going to get up. He's just going to die now. He's going to cook in the sun. Man. That's brutal.
Yeah. But that's all I
there's-
got on chapter 9.
Well, what it all comes down to, even if you're out there in the desert, laying down, beaten, trodden, thinking it's not worth it, you're gonna die, there might be a free McRib right around the corner.
Yeah.
So
That's
just,
the thing to think about in your life. If you're having a tough time, you just hang on. Maybe that fucking McRib will fucking come your way.
You know what's funny about saying all this shit? I still have never had a McRib.
I've had a McRib. They're okay.
I like using it as like, well, it's more the gesture of, instead of stabbing you through the neck or slitting your throat, it's more just the gesture of giving some free food. The reason why I said McRib is you got barbecue sauce,
Yeah.
So, and that's what old Kaladin needed the most.
Yep. Needed barbecue sauce.
That's all he's missing.
All right. So chapter 10 is titled Stories of Surgeons. And in this chapter, it starts from 9 years ago, where Cal goes into the surgery room to help his dad, who's performing surgery on a girl that got a mangled hand.
Yeah, so he's 10, right? Like 10
yeah,
now?
give or take. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like 19 now. It's 9 years ago. So yeah.
I like the sort of intro of Cal. It helps me just in my mind to separate the two in a way.
Well, yeah, and because of why he does it, because he doesn't want to be seen as, better than the other kids in town. Like, he doesn't want to be seen as like like his dad's the highest ranked dark eyes in this city. And
It's
so he doesn't want to lord that over the other kids. He wants to be one of the group.
It's very realistic for how that's how kids are. They want to be they want to be part of the group, and it fits in the sense that Kaladin sounds more like a Light Eye's name. Cal is, not that, basically.
But yeah, and you've gotten to the part where he finally is like, "Stop calling me Cal. I want to go by Kaladin."
Yeah,
where
I think
he accepts his place in the world, and accepts who he is and his station.
I think a big part of that was his old girl basically shits on him in front of some high prince or something, some dude, and he's like, what the fuck? He's pretty devastated, so he's like, yeah, you know what? From now on, I'm Kaladin, and I'm going to be a fucking surgeon. That's basically, that's where he makes his mind up, and then that all gets twisted.
Yeah, and so he goes up, and his dad's name's Lirin, and Lirin was carefully tightened the strap around the arm of a young woman who was tied onto the narrow operating table. Sani's head rolled to the side, and she mumbled, drugged. She wore only a white cotton shirt, her safe hand exposed. Ooh, man, that would have been tough as like a fucking 10-year-old kid. Fucking a girl, she's in her fucking nightgown. She's got that safe hand exposed. Got to give him props that he was able to keep it together. He probably got rougher when he hit like 16, 14, 13, 14, 15, 16. That was probably a rough age for him. Except he left to go. Hey, he was there. He left like when he was like 16 or 15, I think, is when he left.
So I always thought this was funny, but then, but then I just read a part where like, the prostitute didn't had a hand exposed, and it was hot. It's like,
yeah,
what the fuck are you talking? Like, this hand looks different than the other hand. I mean, maybe it does if it's gloved all the time. Maybe it would be more like pure or cleaner or whatever. Like, I guess
you would think it would be like sweatier.
Yeah, probably clammy. Lower risk of becoming like a manly hand, right? Because you don't apparently use it for anything.
Yeah.
What if it's like a little baby hand? What if like from lack of use, it like becomes like a little hook? It just
it'd be grip. The grip would definitely be weaker. You wouldn't be gripping anything with that hand. So yeah, you're gonna have a weak grip with that fucking safe hand.
Yeah, what is it used for then? Is it just used for sex? Because it becomes super, it's depraved, so it's got that going for it? Like,
yeah.
Safe hand.
Yeah, it's funny too, because there are, scenes throughout the books where there's like a girl, someone walks in on a girl and she doesn't have her fucking safe hand covered. She's, like, get out! What are
Mortified.
you doing? He saw my hand.
She's like doing shadow puppets.
Yeah,
it's really scandalous.
That's how they do porn in their world. Is like a woman comes out and like does fucking hand puppets on the wall. Instead of like the theaters that they fucking would have, like people go to the porn theaters. Like they have porn theaters, but it's a girl using a projector to
you know what it is though?
Hand puppets.
It's a hand puppet, and then you see another hand, and on the bottom it says safe hand. So that's why it's hot. Because when the other hand does the hand puppets, it's nothing. It could be kind of cool, but
that's the porno aspect of it, is they are doing the hand puppets with the safe hand.
Yeah, well, that's
why
it's
so erotic.
But how do you know? You'd have to put on the bottom a subtitle that this is a safe hand, and it was like, oh god,
yeah.
They get all excited.
It's such a ridiculous aspect of the world. I mean, like you get like why boobs and all that kind of shit, hips and boobs and ass and face and all that kind of stuff. You get that, like, but hands? Who's into fucking hands? Like, there's biological reasons for the other things.
So that's kind of funny. So the other book that we do a podcast on, they're all about ears, right?
Yeah.
Dennis ears
what is
are real
up
hot.
with all these? What we keep reading series where they're making like fucking and hands. That book's constantly talking about his hands.
Kavos hands. Kavos has those magic
hands. Yeah. Fucking yeah. What's up with these jazz hands and fucking ears?
Which is again very strange because they talk in many different aspects about his hands, but he's a musician, so they're all calloused.
Yes.
But
his calluses are soft.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't. Baby soft calluses. Every girl loves that.
Yeah, it's real hard for me to find eroticism in a hand or an ear.
I always approach girls and I got my hands like held up in the air, like in front of my face, and I just like hold them up for girls so that they can see them and get a good look and know what they're getting.
Nice. That's nice of you.
Yeah.
Or is that's your big selling point, is the hands?
Yeah. I come in, hands out, like just holding them up the whole time I'm talking. Just put your hands out in front of your face and just hold them there. Girls love it. Fucking drives them up a fucking wall.
I mean, I guess there's some people that are into all different types of things. I don't get where the hand thing would start, where it would derive from.
I don't know. But I guess, people are fucking super into feet here.
Some people are really super into feet, yeah. I don't.
That to me, yeah, I don't get that at either. All. No.
It's one of a list of things that are the grossest looking on a human body. The feet are on that list as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Sometimes, man, like, especially if you're with a girl that wears like fucking high heels and shit, it's like getting those, or got them ballerina fucking feet that are just all smashed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not erogenous fucking to me.
Some people though.
It's not my thing.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
And I've seen some guys that have some fucking feet that it's like you should never show those again in public.
Never,
like that it's rude that you would show people those.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have seen the toenail that is like, dude, that's not okay. Like that should never be outside of a sock.
Go to a fucking doctor and fix that.
Socks. They make socks, right?
Yeah.
They're not like super expensive. You can wear through them, but you can buy more socks. Like you should never be short of socks.
Something's happening where you should be changing your socks or something. You're doing something wrong. Because that is not the way your fucking toes are supposed to look.
So maybe that's a thing. Maybe there should be some sort of extra regulation for sandals sandals wearers.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just society itself. Someone needs to speak up and be like, dude, gross. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's gross. That thing you
You
have
like
below your
you have
knees,
like
that
a
thing down
6-inch fucking yellow toenail, man.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, it's always yellow.
It looks
Or
like
there's
a
the
razor
black-
blade.
Or you see like the black underneath, like you crushed this at one point.
Dude, one of our friend's dad, like one time was like trying to explain to me how hard his toenails were. And I'm just like, he's an old man. And so I'm just like listening to it and just letting him tell me this story. But in my mind, I'm like, why are you telling me this? This is the grossest story ever. I don't want to hear about how difficult it is for you to cut your toenails.
It would have been a good thing for all of humanity if you would have said, you shouldn't tell anyone this.
Yeah,
Like, have you ever told this story where someone was like interested in the end?
Yeah. Tell me more. How does this story end? Can I watch you try to cut these?
Did he think you were going to volunteer? Is that what he's constantly doing?
I don't know what the hell was going on, because I was just like, I don't know where this is going, but this seems to be a story that the ending is not going to be. There's not going to be a big payoff.
I do have a question because it does come up quite a bit, and I'm still not real confident on how I see it. But when people walk in a room, there's a globe, and that globe gets filled with spheres or bromes.
Correct.
How do you see that? Do you see it projects the whole room? Is it
like a lantern? You know, like just think of a lantern where you put a candle on the inside of it and light the candle on the inside of like a lantern
all around.
Yeah, the glass reflects the light everywhere around the room.
It almost feels like there'd be like mirrors involved or something to project it out. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at like kind of how a lampshade, will redirect the light. Same thing with like glass. So it's a reason like they cover, because otherwise, you could just put a candle out and just leave the candle burning. But if you want it the light to be more effective,
to be focused to an area, yeah. I guess I just I guess I haven't been certain as of yet, like where it is in the room, because I'm in a room with Cal and Lirin, and I'm like, where's this globe? I don't have to obsess.
I'm assuming
over it.
It's like on a table near them or next to them or on the table. Like, I mean, you wouldn't think it's like far away.
I did think it was interesting that it's permanently on loan from Hearthstone's landlord. I guess that's because of the. They said it was an incredible sum, but I guess that's because he's a surgeon and it's a necessary.
Always needs light.
There's some really...
like the gemstones they run out of light.
Yeah.
So
there's real interesting stuff in this chapter about their family and what it entails, and just what it carries in terms of. Well, I mean, I don't know. One of my favorite parts is just the idea that he saves most of her fingers, right? Mm-hmm. But they won't remember that. They'll just be like, "That fucking she has a damaged hand now." Fucking surgeon fucking sucks. I mean, he saved 4 fingers out of 5, but now she's got this fucked up finger. So it's more like they won't remember. They'll just be disappointed that their beautiful daughter now has a disfigured hand. It's just interesting. The way he states it is, it's almost always happens that way. Terror at the initial wound, then anger at Lirin's inability to work wonders. It's a real thankless job, it seems. I guess I didn't need to jump there, but
yeah, I mean, also we get an idea of the, kind of how their society is structured, economically again, where it's like he wore his spectacles, which he called the most precious gift he'd ever been given. He rarely got them out except for surgery, as they were too valuable to risk just wearing about. So like that's how specialized their system is like they don't have like markets where they can just go and replace glasses and replace the items that they have. Like something like glasses are a luxury.
Yeah, it sounds like a broke ass world in a way. Like they don't have a abundance of items. The scarcity seems a lot more bigger of an issue here in terms of their abilities.
And
But I
even if
guess,
like these things get are produced in places, that doesn't mean that those items are traveling. That
yeah,
traders are constantly going from one point A to point B, because it could be that this town just doesn't produce that much, and so there's not much of a need. They don't have much to sell, so they're not going to have good items to trade with to afford a lot of luxuries to make them more common items. And then with someone like him, Lirin is doing these surgeries for free, and
yeah,
then people give him donations to keep him afloat so he can have a roof over his head and food. You think it's kind of a stupid system,
yeah,
even if he wants, it's like, well, I'm not going to turn anyone away. It's like, okay, that's fine, but what what if you charged and you use that money to buy new equipment, better equipment, more
hmm
supplies, better supplies? What if
you
by
could,
charging something you end up being able to save more lives?
yeah, you could apprentice more people. You could have more surgeons and more doctors, nurses. I mean, you could
Yeah,
have more people on hand that could help. That could be, almost like someone nearer to disaster, say.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
but and I think this also leads to what I just mentioned is, it it also augments their appreciation because it's free, so it doesn't cost anything. So it augments someone's experience of what they're actually even getting, in terms of the fact that it's not charged is I think you would almost you'd have an expectation,
yeah.
that I don't know. I mean, obviously, it would change the way you would look at it and what you would expect from the service in itself.
I mean, like it's equivalent. Like if the farmers were just like giving away their food and it was all like a donation society, like you're gonna struggle real fucking quick if no one's charging for anything. Like, how do you know what to fucking produce? You don't know if you're producing at a profit or a loss. If you don't
Yeah,
have profits and you don't have profits and losses, like you don't know. Like, how do you know how much how much food you should make? Like, so that you're making enough so that you can sell it and to surplus to other towns, so you can trade goods and you can bring in other items and stuff like that. You got to have prices. Without prices, like it's not going to function very well. So I
yeah. I
mean, you
think
can't do this kind of stuff. You can have a barter society, but the barter society is going to be very, very fucking limited.
yeah. No wonder there's one pair of glasses in the fucking whole town
Yeah,
with a bunch of people that can't see. I would guess. And then
I mean,
you
it's not.
got
It's
one
obviously it's not a
surgeon.
barter. It's not a barter society. He seems like he's probably the only one who's just working on a barter system or donation system. It's not even quite a barter system. They are paying him money, but he's just not. It's not.
He
I'm not convinced that he is helping the most amount of people with his
no.
system. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Maybe it is. Maybe this is as top notch as he's going to get. It seems like it's hard for him to get glasses. Maybe it's even harder for him to get better supplies, or maybe you know there's nobody in this town. There's not enough money in this town that's being generated where if he started charging prices, he would be able to upgrade anything. Maybe that's the case. So it could be that he's being very generous and there's no downside, but it would seem like there would be some kind of downside to not trying to charge money to upgrade your equipment and to improve your hospital, basically, to expand, to get bigger, to get better.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's the only surgeon in the town, so it doesn't seem to be helping. I mean, it's the only choice anybody has is this one guy. So I mean that there's no competition. I mean that in itself to me says that it's not an ideal system, but plus, dude, they're completely at the whim of the king or whatever the fuck. Who's the guy? Get Rosa?
Gavilar?
No, resin. Who's a local dude that fucks them over?
Oh, I forget his name off the top of my head. But yeah, the local light eyes.
Yeah, he's a
But
scumbag. But
yeah,
and he basically can try to starve them to death. They basically play like they have less than they have, and they play it up like they're struggling more than they are, but they are still struggling because they're dependent on donations. And if it's free, yeah, people will be appreciative, but how far does that go?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you run into a situation where, hard times come on and people just stop paying you, and yeah, I mean, at some point you have to get fucking paid. And, maybe in this system, people are generous enough with the donations that it's working out where he's making the same amount of money that he would if he was charging the prices for his services. But just seems like a very small town fucking type of thing. This is not something that that would work on large scale where they're just relying on donations. It seems you would need a market, and it's just that doesn't seem to be a very efficient system.
I was going to say it was quite revealing. I mean, he's 10, and it says, he was worried when he was always worried. He always worried when someone was wounded. And he's talking about how he was worried about Sandy, whoever this girl is. It seems to be his calling, right? It seems to be his natural inclination is to be concerned. It's a small thing.
Well, it seems like not so much his calling. It seems like he's smart enough to do all this stuff, but it doesn't seem like the right profession for him. Because he's like, he inspected her hand, she'll be all right. He told himself as his father had trained him. A surgeon needs to be calm, where he just wastes time. It's hard advice to follow. Like, we see him. He does not react well to loss.
Yeah, true.
He does not handle it well. This guy should not be a surgeon. Someone who can't fucking handle losing patients should not be a fucking surgeon.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and Lirin does mention that quite a few times. He does also see the how great his mind works and how adept he is and capable he is in terms of memory of things when he quizzes them. But he also does say, like, dude, you take all this really hard. Like, you're like breaking to tears on every time someone comes in here. And actually, when he delivers it at one point, it's quite a bit of a challenge. But I was going to mention though is he's got the only clock in the town.
Yep,
Fabrial clock. If I were him, it would be I would be tempted to walk around, just showing everyone what time it is, like Flavor Flav.
Yeah. Fucking have that clock around your neck. Fucking always talking about what time it is.
Be like, the time has come. The time has come. Just yell that
in
song
the house. 12 a.m. bitches.
Man, it's his side hustle, man. Yeah. He's timing people while they run wind sprints and whatnot.
When he doesn't have any, because like if you're just like a surgeon in a small town, you're probably not having to perform surgeries all the time.
Yeah.
Probably got a lot of time off. So I'm thinking like during his off time, he is doing like the bird that pokes his head out fucking at the top of the hour. He just walks around the town going, 12 o'clock, bong, bong, bong.
Yeah, he's a walking cuckoo clock. Going around. Yeah, he's got a business also. He's got the wake up call service. That'd be him, right? Calling around, telling people when to take their pills.
Yeah,
he's the only alarm that's in the entire town.
Problem is like if two people need him to be there at 8 a.m. and they're fucking on different sides of town, man.
They bid up. They got to bid up. That's where he makes his money.
Yeah, that's what he charges for. He charges for his cuckoo clock service.
Yeah. How important is it to you? It's kind of interesting how they build in also like the wisdom of the heralds. There's a lot of like sort of like their philosophies of sorts and religion kind of built into this chapter. But But also like the thing about washing your hands. This hammy guy sounds like an idiot to me. Where they're basically Lirin is saying like you always wash your hands, or he says something about the wisdom of the heralds. And Deathspren and Rotspren hate water; it will keep them away. And Cal says that Hammy says that's silly. He says Deathspren are mighty good at killing folks, so why should they be afraid of a little water? And yeah, so that's why I said he sounds like an idiot. Because
yeah, but I mean that's because we understand, you know, what the cleaning the hands would do and that kind of stuff. But if you don't understand what is actually happening, you know, how, like, if you don't know germs and bacteria,
viruses,
I mean, yeah, like you're not going to understand why this would be effective. But then on the flip side of that, it's like, look, yeah, but when you do wash your hands, the fucking Rospin go away.
Yeah, it's a good argument.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. So regardless of why it works, it clearly works. It's demonstrable that you get rid of Rospin by cleaning things. So
it's
cleaning
also
things is obviously important. And if you're a surgeon, you can be like, look, I fucking do this. If I don't do this, the chances of this person's survival go down dramatically. If I do this, they go up dramatically. So clearly, this is, you know, the correct thing.
Yes, trial and error. That would also apply. Also, according to the movie Signs, that's how you kill aliens.
Yes.
So this is probably how you kill the Parshendi. They're probably wasting ammo. They should just dump water.
Yep.
Because they're aliens.
The Parshendi are just like the aliens in Signs.
Yeah. But I do like how
it ultimately is just a giant homage to Signs.
To M. Night Shyamalan, specifically Signs.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's going to be Joaquin Phoenix is going to be a character that used to play baseball.
Sil eventually takes, you know, physical form, and she turns into a baseball bat, and Kaladin throws bottles of water. He throws them, and then she just smashes them and just sprays water all over the place on the Parshendi.
Is that the best way to spray water? Do you think?
The one big hole is, in this society, there are fucking some raging storms. There is a lot of water that would get sprayed down on these people, and you would think that would be a bad society for them if water fucking killed them immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah,
plus,
it'd be rough terrain.
It sounds like the need of hitting bottles of water with baseball bats wouldn't really be very efficient when you could just wait for the next storm.
Yeah.
Or they're just dodging them. You know, they're dodging storms. They're doing the mathematical equation, know when they're coming. And that's the Parshendi just good at math.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you know, you could just wait until they all huddle into a house and just open their door and let the water just fucking spray them in the rain. That sideways rain. Open a window. Fucking wipe out everybody as they're hiding from the rain.
Yeah.
So
that'd be very efficient.
Yeah, it was a weird choice, but
I do like how their conversation about Deathspren and Rotspren evolves into Cal saying, "But they're demons." I heard off that Ardent who came teaching last spring, and he's like, "Well, that's the Radiance he was talking about. You're mixing them up." And so we get a little bit of details about Heralds, Radiance, Voidbringers, and it kind of it just sort of helps us build the world out a little bit further through their conversation.
Well, and it also it paints the Heralds like we've seen the Heralds, and but it paints them as they had more advanced knowledge than the people, and so they don't understand, they left basic knowledge like wash your fucking hands, and the people don't understand why it works. They just know it does. But the Heralds, more than likely, whether through trial and error or whether they know the exact reasons, they knew the knowledge, and so they knew it's important, and they passed it down to these people.
Yeah, it plays off that interesting element that gets created, because if there's some utility and use from some of what's being taught, and then that can border on creation of dogmas, and then you can have problems and inconsistencies within that, like dogmatic faith. And I think that's kind of gets talked about where they go back and forth. Well, like basically Cal is sort of saying that because he heard his father say that he thought the Voidbringers weren't real. And to Cal, that's ridiculous. Who else could be blamed when things were missing in the night or when a crop got infected with digger worms? It's sort of that, I don't want to say simple-minded, but kind of, right? I mean, Cal's a kid here. So he's taking a simple-minded approach towards, well, there's evil in the world. There's bad. Where's that bad come from?
Yeah.
It can't be scientific or it can't be bacteria or anything. It has to be that evil. So the evil's the Voidbringers.
Yeah, it reminded me of when we were talking about like the people that in the King Killer Chronicles, like when he finds the children's books that got all the Chandrian, are doing this and this and this and this, and they're just blaming all the ills of the world on the Chandrian. We were talking about like, someone writing a book and being like, the reason, why I lose all my money gambling is because the Chandrian don't want me to win. They're always out to get me.
Yeah, so he writes a book that makes the Chandrian the scapegoat for everything.
Yeah, it seems like that's the role the Voidbringers are playing for some people. Like, look, baby, it's not my fault. Fucking Voidbringers keep fucking screwing me.
Well, and that's what I was kind of saying, though, about the problem with, and it almost seems like that individual is creating a bigger problem for those who believe, because now you're testing the faith of those who are on the border, right? And when you stretch it too far, you're gonna lose people. It's that dogmatism that turns people off on all of it. Because there's a certain length you'll go with your belief. You know what I'm saying? And that's true about movies and TV and books. If I'm entertained enough, I'll put up with a lot of bullshit as long as I'm entertained. There can be some ridiculousness as long as it's being balanced out, or, whatever, in terms of your ability to still enjoy whatever it is or believe in whatever it is. It has to be tied to reality in some way. And obviously that depends on what your whole motivation and what you're experiencing is. But in the sense of what they're talking about, it seems like what builds the world and how do they see it? How do they perceive it? And it's interesting because we're kind of seeing that how they build it and how much is tied to what we've actually read, right? Because like you said, we've seen the heralds, but what do they see as demonic? What do they actually see as demons? What are the Voidbringers?
Yeah. Yeah, and then so Cal, he looks over this girl and he says that, sees that the third finger will have to go, won't it? Cal said, trying a bandage around the base of the finger to keep it from bleeding. His father nodded, a hint of a smile on his face. He'd hoped Cal would discern that. Lirin often said that a wise surgeon must know what to remove and what to save. And he also, Lirin blames it on the Voidbringers, and Cal was like, I thought you didn't believe in the Voidbringers. And Lirin said, I do for the bad things.
That was my favorite Seinfeld moment.
Yeah.
It's the best. The
But
best.
I like that, the hint of a smile on his face. Like it's kind of a dark thing. Like he's, because you could take that the wrong way. Like he's smiling at the fact that she's got to lose her finger. He's like fucking laughing at it. Or the realistic way to look at it is he's smiling because he's proud of his son, knowing that, you can't fuck around with this. This has got to go. You can't fucking cling on to the hope that the finger's going to heal itself. This finger's not going to fucking heal itself. It's too late. It has to be cut off to save the girl.
Mm. There was something that I thought was pretty interesting where when his father had started training Cal 2 years before, sights like this had sickened him. Now he was used to torn flesh. That was good. Cal figured this would be useful when he went to war someday to fight for his High Prince and the Light Eyes. I say that's interesting because this is before he picks up the spear.
Yeah.
Right? This is before that's happened. So even in his mind, he's still wanting, and I guess they're about to talk about it, but he's still wanting that. He wants.
He lionizes, the warriors.
Yeah. Well, and I guess we do get we just got it, but then we get it directly here where Lirin puts out something that becomes quite a bit of a motif in the books, which is there's two kinds of people in the world, right?
Yeah.
So we get the origin here, which is cool. This is a good chapter. I mean, there's a lot in here that's quite significant, and will end up playing a big part of the overall book.
Yeah, because he ends up saves 4 of the fingers. They have to cut one off, and then like you'd mentioned, like he talks about how the parents won't see it that way. They'd be disappointed that their beautiful daughter would now have a disfigured hand. It almost always happened that way. Terror at the initial wound, then anger at Lirin's inability to work wonders. Lirin said it was because the townfolk had grown accustomed to having a surgeon. To them, the healing had become an expectation rather than a privilege. But Sani's parents were good people. They'd make a small donation, and Cal's family, his parents, him and his younger brother Tian, would continue to be able to eat. Odd how they survived because of others' misfortune. Maybe that was part of what made the townsfolk resent them. But that's also the first time we get mentioned that Tian's his brother. So then you're hit with, oh shit. So his younger brother dies. That's who he's talking about.
There is a couple things here that end up playing importance too, because that scene where he does pick up the spear, we get more of how the other kids, they resent him because he's not in the field. They hate being in the field. This is what they do every day. He doesn't belong. He doesn't have to do the work they do. So fuck him, basically.
Yeah, it's grass is greener on the other side. They think he's fucking living easy street, and they're fucking, grinding every day.
Very human occurrence. Very human occurrence. Yeah. But yeah, and it's again interesting with Cal, because we see him as a kid. He's like trying to understand the world and the difficulty in being different. I thought it was funny where they mentioned, he spends too much time with books. It's a funny aspect in this world, like being too learned. Fucking weirdo. Although, I guess that's a thing. And I always thought that was really funny in, what's the kids movie? Beauty and the Beast. They call her weird because she's always reading books.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what? Like, why? I mean, I guess they're playing up the thing of like the smart girl is being miscast, so you could still be that smart girl and still whatever flourish or something. I guess maybe that's what they're doing. But I always thought it was so strange, man.
I had one job where like I would get, because there's so many people that work there, I would get this question at least a couple times because I'd always have a book with me, and people would come up and like, "Why are you reading that?" Because I want to learn the information that's inside. Like, what do you mean? Why am I reading it? How do you fucking think I'm reading it?
There's a great, I think it was Louis C.K. joke where he's at like a cafe and somebody comes up like, "What you reading for?" And he's like, "Oh, fuck." Oh no, I think it's Bill Hicks. And he's like, "To not be like you. That's why. That's why." And it was very much about how they said it. Yeah, he had a lot of disdain, obviously, but it was being asked the question that way, where it's like, "Do I have to have a fucking book report? Like, have you not read a book?" Like,
it's such a weird question to me. Like when I'm like, what are you reading that for? Like, why do you guess? Guess.
I feel bad. I actually do feel bad for people that don't enjoy reading, because I've heard that from people.
There would be times
I don't like reading.
There'd be times like reading like a sales book. I had a sales job, and it's like, why are you reading that? Like, why the fuck do you think, man?
Yeah,
like,
this is
what
pretty
are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a stupid question. It's one of those like, that's not the question. There's clearly something else you want to ask me, because that's just too stupid. Like, ask me a different question.
Ask me a different question. That's a good one. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna try to use that sometime soon when somebody asks me a question that I think is stupid. Just come back with, ask me a different, the Greg Popovich, I'll call it.
Yeah. I don't like that one. Ask something else.
Just all of a sudden treat this conversation like it's an interview.
Yeah.
Next question.
Next. This guy he just asked me a stupid question. Anybody else got a good question they want to ask me? Because I'm out of here if not. This is it. No more questions after this.
That's a good one on the subway. That's a really good response in public transit.
Yeah, so he talks about, like, you know, you still need to work on those nerves of your son, Lirin said softly, washing blood from his hands. Cal looked down. It's good to care, Lirin said, but caring, like anything else, can be a problem if it interferes with your ability to perform surgery. Caring too much can be a problem, Cal thought back at his father. What about being so selfless that you never charge for your work? He didn't dare say the words. So I like that aspect too. Like, at least Cal fucking, he's more pragmatic and like, what the fuck are we doing? You're not fucking charge anything. We're relying. Our survival is completely dependent on other people's generosity when nobody else is doing that. Like,
yeah, like,
you know, it's not, and you can't just be like, well, you know, people could die. Well, if you don't eat food, you die. If you don't drink water, you die. Like, I mean, so, but there's still people charging for food. So,
doesn't mean
don't
it's
wear
wrong.
Clothes.
It's
you don't
so
wear
we don't
clothes.
Run out.
You're gonna die. More than likely, you're gonna fucking die in a unless you live in the perfect fucking climate.
Well,
better
they clearly
have some
don't.
fucking clothes. Yeah,
and their world, shelter is essential.
Yeah, and so, but if you know, people are charging for this shit, even though these are essential to living.
It's a smart move on Sanderson's part to have, especially Cal of all people, asking these questions, because he's a very, very intelligent 10-year-old, and he's looking at this inconsistency in his own father, and he's questioning that inconsistency also in their world itself. It's This chapter is really riddled with that, which is really great, where he questions things, which, God, dude, if you're not an intelligent 10-year-old, if you're not, you know what I'm saying? You can't be the character that he ends up becoming if he's not going to be pushing those limits.
And I like that aspect of the book too, because there is a lot of people that, you know, because everybody's not going to agree. There's probably people listening, you know, that are sitting there like, yeah, of course you don't fucking charge. And it's a good thing he doesn't charge, and so they have a completely different perspective on the issue than what we're saying. But that's part of what I like about the book, is that you have someone like Cal questioning it. You have Lirin; he's got his position, why he believes in his position, and you know you can understand the logic behind it, the reasoning behind it. But then there's other people that have a completely different perspective, and then, you know, you can understand why they are. You're going to side with one or the other, just kind of depending on your belief structures and those kind of things, you know, what you've grown up with and what you've, you know, observed and learned. But I like when it's not just, because you could write a book and you could let your own personal belief system bleed into the book, where it's like, it could be that, like, his belief system is that what Lirin is doing is absolutely correct. And he could write it in a way where it just beats you over the head with saying, Lirin's right. Anyone who disagrees with him is wrong. He's doing the right thing. Everybody else is doing the wrong thing, blah, blah, blah. And you're just spilling out your own fucking belief system into your book. I hate that. I hate
you're being
fuck. I don't want to be preached. I do not. Yeah, don't fucking preach to me.
It's not fiction anymore.
Yeah, give me the multiple sides. I want to have people I agree with, people I disagree with. I don't need to agree with everybody, and I sure as shit don't want to fucking be preached to. And so I like that
it's a big turn
he doesn't
off.
do that. He doesn't do that. He presents multiple angles, and he doesn't write. There's no, like, you know, because you can easily turn it into like, okay, here's the position I agree with, so I'm gonna build the steel man argument for him. I'm gonna fucking build the strongest argument for him I can possibly think of, and then I'm gonna give the other side of it, but I'm gonna give them their weakest position, and make it known that this position is weak. And so that's a bad way to write things, because you know, the people who agree with you are going to be fucking clapping and cheering and fucking go team, but it's not realistic, and you lose like half the audience who doesn't agree with that. And I mean, they're going to be like, that's not why I agree with that guy, but that's a terrible way to make that argument. I could make a much better argument. You don't want that when you're reading the books, and I don't get that with Sanderson. He's a good writer.
Yeah, and I agree.
And he's empathetic, where he understands multiple different perspectives on life.
It's a huge turnoff to be preached at to begin with. Once I am confronted with it, if it doesn't get balanced out, it changes my perspective as the book goes on. It doesn't mean I'll stop reading necessarily, but I'll start looking at the writing in a different way. I'll start. It's going to augment the experience clearly.
It'll at least throw me out of the story at that moment, because it's not. I mean, it's clear what you're doing. It's clear. You got an agenda, and then once I know you got an agenda, it's much harder for me to enjoy your book.
That in itself is sloppy, but it's also counterintuitive to the experience that you want to give people reading. Is you want to give them a fully fleshed out world. The world doesn't work like that. It's not one thing, man. It's not. It needs to be more nuanced if it's going to be like our life experience. Now, you can write something that's not like that. Fine. It depends on what you're trying to appeal to. But a book like this, where you're trying to immerse people in a world and have them fully experience a world that, especially in this chapter, what he's setting out to do, it's important that it have more balance. And yeah, I agree. Sanderson does a great job. This is one of the better examples for me to see a heck of a lot of foreshadowing that he lays forward. So he does quite a good job. And then also putting it in the 10-year-old Cal, he's building him out and having him, do what a 10-year-old should be doing.
Yeah, Sanderson even has, one of the characters, one of the quotes in the book from Wit is, the purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon.
Yeah. I forgot about Wit. Shit, that now reminds me that he's not in that much of of this book, because when I was first confronted with him, dude, he fucking hits home runs immediently.
Yeah.
Immediately. It's like great. Awesome fucking character, and then he's just gone for a long time because I haven't heard him in a while. But he's got some of the best one-liners ever, dude. Phenomenal.
Hey, that quote right there is like a perfect example of what he just did right there. Where, he presents one side and then he presents the other, and he doesn't, he's not telling you how to think. He's just, here's how, this person's doing it, why he's doing it. Here's another perspective, or a disagreement, and then you can, make your own fucking choice about who's right or wrong.
The best authors do that anyway throughout the whole book. They lay it all out and let you piece things together. When they're really clearly pieced together, it's okay. It just feels like a kid's story,
it feels like you don't trust your audience. When you
don't trust their intelligence.
You're
or their appreciation for everything either.
Yeah, I mean, when everything's explicit, because look, if a lot of people will complain about like a complaint you'll see about like someone like Rothfuss is like, everything's implied. He doesn't spell things out. It's just like, hey, you can take everything any different way. He doesn't ever tell you exactly what's going on. There's always just implications. It's like, yeah, but that's the point. It's on purpose. He's not doing that to, they don't do that because they don't want to give it away, or they don't know the answer. They don't have an answer. They don't have an explanation, and it's not a cheat. It's because there's, a large segment of people who read books prefer a book that allows them to use their own mind. And their own, but it's the same thing with the way a lot of authors describe characters, where you give a few details of the character and you let the person who's reading it build their own image. And so you ask 10 different people, there's probably 10 different descriptions. Yeah, and so, that's that's a good thing in books for a lot of people.
What you also just described, though, is a big part of that audience that is mad. Really mad that the third book hasn't come out.
But
yet.
I mean, there are people that
about those things.
They want to read. They want someone holding their hand and fucking telling them.
There is something like, that to me is a little bit odd about the need to have it complete. And I understand the need. There's so many books that I like that once you get to the end of it, it's not real clear what is being told, what is being explained to you. It's kind of open, and there are some themes that got played out and some positions that you were put in that you then sort of experienced and thought to a degree, but it didn't tell you how to think. You know what I'm saying? Like it's I'm having a little trouble. I guess my point is I don't need it to be totally tied up and all together as I get to the end, and I'm okay with something not being done yet, in the sense that we've spent tons of time talking about it, and I've enjoyed it. And in a way, it's going to be disappointing to me. I'll be more disappointed when it's done, even if he does the best job you could conceive of. It will be done, and if he's ending it, then it's over. And to me, that's disappointing because I'm having a hell of a time enjoying. I don't care if it takes another 20 years, frankly. I mean, it'd be nice to get it sooner, I guess, but in a way, it's over at that point and it's done. And that's a little bit, I mean, obviously that's got to be disappointing if you've enjoyed them. Yeah. But it's just a different, I mean, what floats your boat, I guess, is part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I see, you notice it a lot when watching movies with people who just want to know. They don't like the mystery. They don't like trying to figure it out themselves. Like you get it, like, you know, with people who constantly, and when you watch a movie with them and they're like, what's that mean? What's going to happen? What is like, what happens here? Like asking you, and it's like, just watch. And they're like, no, just tell me.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, too, our minds are just completely different. Like that. I would go out of my way to make sure I don't know. And I find out later. I don't want you to tell me.
What's so interesting about that, just even within a 2-hour movie, is like, dude, we both started watching this at the same time.
Yeah.
And I also don't know.
Yeah.
I also don't know, but you're doing what is intended for you to do. You're supposed to think, well, what the fuck? That's what's supposed to happen, but just keep it in. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm not mad. You asked me, but you know, just you're gonna find out, or maybe we won't, but we'll find out together whether we will or we won't. But yeah, it's always it's just a funny part of stories, you know, in themselves. Is like some people, the anticipation just boils over, you know, their excitement about it, I guess, for some people. But actually, what came in my mind is I just rewatched Sopranos, and I remember how mad people were at the climax, and it was awesome. Like, I don't remember. I remember thinking I understood why people were upset, but also like I wasn't participating in being upset about it.
Yeah, I wasn't either. Like, I remember one of our friends was mad, and he was like, I was like, well, what did you think was going to happen? And, you know, what do you think was going to happen at the end? And he's like, well, I think, you know, he got killed. I think someone killed him. It's like, okay, well, that's the ending for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's kind of the point. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what he was doing, is like, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. They insinuated. They also, like, I forgot how well it was done in terms of the sounds and what was happening, as like Meadow was trying to parallel park and doing a real shitty job.
Dude, it was one of the most intense, you know, the first time you see that, it is one of the most intense fucking moments in TV history.
It's
what the fuck?
It's just three,
because you know time is running out, and you know it's like, oh shit, what the fuck?
It's all because of that. It's all because, like, well, wait, I know this is the last episode, and I know where we're at with the time. It's all that, and they're playing you with that. And throughout the whole episode, they do it a lot with the framing and a lot of the sound and the music. So you're kind of like, what's coming? This would need to come now if something's going to happen. But it's just three people sitting at a table eating onion rings, waiting on the other person. That's really what it is, you know. Yeah. But there's a lot of suspect shit going on that hints, which is fucking great, man. I thought it was great.
And fucking tense.
But it's funny, and it popped up in my mind because, as you say, there's so many people that I remember were really upset about it. I remember going to work, and all these people were so mad, and I was just like, really? Like, I thought it was pretty cool, man. Like, I was so upset about it. But
and so you know, the next part is he asks, you know, so where were you? And Kaladin tells him that, you know, he was practicing with someone with the sphere, you know, Jam, and his dad was teaching him how to use the sphere. His dad was in the army, and you know, he's like, you know, I know about Jam's father. I've had to operate on that lame leg of his 3 times now, a gift of his glorious time as a soldier. We need soldiers, father. You'd have our borders violated by the Thalens. I love this aspect of it. Is like
Immediately.
Kaladin keeps making erroneous arguments. His
Yeah.
dad,
Well, and
Thalena is an
immediately.
island kingdom. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Whatever dumb propaganda he's learned, he's just repeating without thinking. Because his dad's immediately like, Thalena is an island kingdom, Lirin said calmly. They don't share a border with us. Well, then they could attack from the sea. Mostly tradesmen and merchants. Everyone I've met has tried to swindle me, but that's hardly the same thing as invading. Like, his dad has experienced them, met them, so it's not a mystery to them. Like, you can imagine Kaladin, like, in these farmers who've never left the town, who can't travel, and they're just, they hear about Thalens or people from different lands, and they build up this image in their head. They build up this image of the conquering kingdom, the constant threat.
This is
the danger.
This is every culture throughout history, man.
Like, every fear what they don't know.
Has, And
whereas he knows it, he's experienced it. He's seen their fucking goofy ass eyebrows and fucking slicking their eyebrows back, as a comb over and fucking. So he's
sweet.
Like, no, look, trust me. If you saw their eyebrows, you would not feel threatened by them.
You would not
at all.
fear them.
If they come near you, you're just gonna grab their eyebrows and swing them around. Fucking, they're done.
They're like Samson. If you cut the eyebrows, they lose all strength.
Yeah,
they just completely, completely shrivel up. But what you're mentioning there, and what we were saying is like every culture has this where they fear the unknown. It also, it gets fomented by the powers that be. If they can benefit from it, and seemingly since the beginning of man, in just about every culture, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and so
somebody's got something to gain.
None of these people are traveling, and he's talking with other kids. So these other kids are probably fucking idiots, and telling things that they heard from their parents, and you get in the telephone game where even the things they heard they're misinterpreting and mangling it. So he's got his stupid knowledge, and his dad's immediately checking him on it. And we also learn, like, because his dad is second non, the only man of second non in the town, he had traveled all the way to Kharbranth during his youth. He's the only one that's traveled around and would have knowledge of the outside world, really. But he goes, Kaladin goes, well, we fight with someone. Cal continued, moving to scrub the floor. Yes, his father said after a pause, King Gavilar always finds people for us to fight. That much is true. So we need soldiers, like I said. We need surgeons more, Lirin said, sighed audibly, turned away from his cabinet. Son, you nearly cry every time someone is brought to us. You grind your teeth anxiously during even simple procedures. What makes you think you could actually hurt someone? And he's 100% wrong in that, because why Kaladin doesn't like losing people, taking people's lives was not a fucking big issue for him.
There are two things there that are interesting to me. Like, he just keeps doubling down. Well, he's always going to find someone for us to fight. So like I said, we need soldiers. Like, dude, that's the problem, is we keep just feeding this beast that wants more. But the other part is, if Lirin was trying to get me to not join, this is the worst way to do it. If you tell me I'm scared and I actually am not capable of hurting someone, dude, I'd be joining tomorrow. I'm going to go out and break somebody's face right in front of you so you can see it happen. I'm not good with being challenged like that. Like being told, well, you're not capable. Like, fuck you, bro.
Yeah, and then also, I think one thing he's discounting is the fact of the othering people. Like, it's one thing to see people you care about and people you live around, your neighbors, your family, that are having surgery, and having to sit there and see them cut open and, in pain or dying, or, that's a much different thing than this guy's trying to kill me and it's kill or be killed. And that guy's an other. He needs to be stopped. They're rapers, they're pillagers, they're, all the things you're going to demonize the others. They're not humans, they're animals. And
he dropped that whole topic.
You can, it's a much different psychology. Versus going to war with the other, than performing surgery on people you know and care about, or innocent people that you're not thinking of them as enemies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's, that's what, when he goes into killing, that's a large part of it, is that he's looking at them like they're the enemy.
Yeah, well, and that's a big part of what that's a big part of what the whole machine that drives this is. I'm protecting my brother. It's all about the brother, your brotherhood. But so it's just a group. They're the others. We're us. They're trying to kill us. We're protecting ourselves, and we're protecting these people back home. And it's, again, that's what keeps this machine going.
Yeah, I mean, you can see why it'd be much easier psychologically to come up with justifications for killing someone who's trying to kill you versus, struggling to lose someone on a surgery table. It's a much different thing. It's a bad example by Lirin in that situation.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it feeds on one of the most natural motivations that we have as human beings. Someone threatens you or someone you care about, you're going to defend them and yourself. That's what it's drawing on. So to turn your back on that completely is, a mistake.
I like this part too, though, because a lot of what is done is given some background into Kaladin's personality, why he's the way he is, because you get finally his father's side, walking over and kneeling down beside him, helping with the scrubbing. What are the properties of winter wart? Bitter taste, Cal said immediately, which makes it safer to clean since people won't eat it by accident. Crush it to powder, mix it with oil, use 1 spoonful per 10 brick weight of the person you're drugging, induces a deep sleep for about 5 hours. And how can you tell if someone has the fiddlepox? Nervous energy, Cal said. Thirst, trouble sleeping, and swelling on the underside of the arms. Got such a good mind, son, Lirin said softly. It took me years to learn what you've done in months. I've been saving. I'd like to send you to Cabranth when you turn 16 to train with real surgeons. You have a gift from the heralds themselves, Lirin said, resting a hand on Cal's shoulder. You could be 10 times the surgeon I am. Don't dream the small dreams of other men. Our grandfathers bought and worked us to second on so that we could have full citizenship and the right to travel. Don't waste that on killing. Cal hesitated, but soon found himself nodding. That's a better way to approach him than, you don't have the stomach for it. It's, there's better, you're capable of so much more.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also it's important world building for us as well, because we don't consider that people aren't allowed to travel. Like, I mean, they're citizens, yet they're treated like they're slaves, like they're captives. It's fucking absurd. Which, by the way,
it's a real dumb system. Like, if you're just like fucking handicapped and locked into your own fucking town, like you can't leave that town. It's a stupid economic system.
Well, I was going to say, it's going to be very difficult for you to convince me I'm going to fight for you. I'm captive? Like, the fuck? Like, like the idea that you don't even trust, to have that level of distrust or mistrust or distrust, lack of trust with your citizens. I mean, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, it's one thing too, though. I mean, like the desire to travel would be less because it wouldn't be easy. Like there are massive storms, hurricanes that just roll through. And so the desire to travel would be less because it's dangerous and it would be expensive. You can't just go fucking get on a horse and just, camp. You have to have shelter. And so traveling wouldn't be a cheap thing to do. So a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford it. But also, if you were just raised in an environment where people below second 9 don't travel. You just can't travel. It would just become the culture.
Yeah. Well, so this does actually reveal when Kaladin's in the slave caravan, he actually has it pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's traveling.
He's not only is he traveling, he's being fed, right? Yeah. They're caring for him. He doesn't have to walk,
Not chicken nuggets, but he's getting food.
Fucking chicken nuggets again. But yeah, he's got it pretty sweet. He's laying back. There's not much expected of him. He just chills. He gets a shower every now and then, from the rain. But
Yeah, I guarantee you, if he could trade, from where he is, in the previous chapter, if he could go back to that fucking caravan, he's fucking doing that in a second. All of a sudden, he's not going to be such a fucking sourpuss in there. Like, he's going to be like, this is fucking great.
Yeah, that's pretty
fucking
funny.
Sun on me, fucking getting a nice tan, get some food in my belly. Not fucking getting any arrow shot at me. Haven't had a fucking single arrow shot at me.
That's pretty funny when you mention it, because when he's in the slave caravan, he is like, well, how could it get any worse than this?
Yeah, this is the worst.
Actually, that's pretty funny, man. That would be a funny way, like, and it would be funny if it's not done with comedic tone, but he repeatedly yells, this is the worst.
Yeah. It cannot get worse than this. I am at rock bottom.
And then at one point, I was wrong. This is worse. Yeah. This was worse than that previous.
This is so much worse.
Milk was a bad choice.
Yeah.
I like it. I think that's the key. That's the key to. I love the idea of having that unintentional comic relief.
Yeah.
Within a very serious situation, but just gives the audience a chance to breathe.
That's how like they should promo it, like just clip together stuff like that, where he's sitting there in a slave caravan, like this is the worst. It can't get worse than this. And then the next scene is him like carrying the bridge with arrows shooting at him. It's like, this is so much worse. Everybody comes in thinking it's going to be a fucking comedy.
Oh, yeah. You show that in the previews. I guess I missed that part of it. You show that in the previews, yeah. And you cast Will Ferrell as Kaladin. That would really set a different tone.
Everybody's like everybody talks about Kaladin like he's a specimen of a man, and it's fucking Will Ferrell with his shirt off with his fucking weird looking body. Oh god, yeah. I guess you could make that this a great comedy. Yeah, fucking bring Will Ferrell into it.
That would be.
I don't think the book fans. I think they would not be big fans. I would love it because I am a huge fan of. I think it would be funny to piss everybody off. I think that shit's hilarious to see everybody lose their mind. If you did it on purpose. If you just were purposely trolling the audience, that would be hilarious.
What would also be great is if Will Ferrell decided, like he loves the books, and he decided to go straight, not comedic, and play Kaladin straight, you know?
Yeah.
But then you can't help. But he's one of those guys that is funny regardless. So you would still think it's funny.
It would be funny if
you
had like just people talking about him like he's this specimen of a man and he's, 50-some-year-old Will Ferrell, fucking overweight, and
he's playing a 19-year-old.
Yeah. It would be funny just on that alone.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's like people talking about like, how old are you? It's like, you can't be older than 19. Like fucking Will Ferrell's like, I've been at this for so long. Like when the caravan guy was like, what do you know about all this? You can't be older than fucking 18. And
as an audience member, be like, what the fuck? What did they do here?
Yeah. I'd fucking crack up, man. It'd be hilarious. But I get, and if you're casting Dalinar, so if Will Ferrell is Kaladin, who would you cast as? Oh, I know who you cast. You cast his stepbrother's fucking partner.
Yeah. O'Reilly, John.
But
John O'Reilly?
John O'Reilly or something like that.
I know we're talking about the same person.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's fucking great, dude. He's played a lot of serious roles too, and he's hilarious. Yeah. That's a great example of what I was saying with Will Ferrell that I've seen him do, because I've seen him play serious roles as like villains and whatnot.
One of my favorite scenes with him ever is when in Boogie Nights, when Mark Wahlberg is laying down that track, and then like he's in the background and he's like, it's like, you got the touch. You got the power, and he's sitting there fucking like jamming out, doing air drums and stuff, like fucking Mark Wahlberg's just fucking crushing it. And it's the worst song ever. Like the voice, everything, the music, it's just the cheesiest shit you can imagine, and he's just jamming out in the background to it. It's fucking hilarious.
I see a really good Gaz or any Thalen, Danny DeVito. I could see that.
Yeah.
But I want him to be
I could see
Frank.
Danny DeVito.
I want
as
him
Gaz.
to be, but I want him being not Danny DeVito playing Gaz. I want him to be Danny DeVito playing Frank Reynolds playing Gaz. That's important. That element's very important. That's what I need. That would be, if I was directing. This is what we need.
Yeah, who would play Lupin?
I don't know who Lupin is.
Lopin or whatever his name is. What's his fucking name? Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. You know, I'm talking about the one-armed guy.
I don't know who that is.
Hey, he's got to have.
The
one arm, the hard day.
It's about Rock.
No, like
Taft?
you remember, like there's a guy that comes in. You've had to have gotten to it because of where you're at. Like the guy, he's got one arm. Like they come up and Cal's like, "Hey, we need a dude," and he's like, "Fine, you get one. You can pick one." And he picks the short one guy.
He's like
sounds
Scottish.
like an Australian, like the sounds like an Australian fucking dude.
Yeah. His pronouncing is very. I don't know why
Lopin.
I thought Scottish.
Lopin.
You thought, yeah,
Lopin.
I know who you're talking about now. Yeah. He's a cool character.
Yeah, he's funny. Yeah, and he's like he's like
Jim Jeffries.
Over the top cheerful, over the top cheerful for the position he's in.
Jim Jeffries, that's what I'm saying. So just cast a bunch of comedians that don't act and have them all in these roles.
Yeah.
So go that route. Have like Bill Burr, although I've seen him act. He was in Breaking Bad. It's good.
Yeah.
I guess Jim Jeffries was on a show, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad though.
Yeah, I guess
he's not a
most
good
of these
actor.
comedians actually do act. There is a clip of a guy running on stage and throwing punches at Jim Jeffries, and it's horrible. It's so horrible because Jim Jeffries, instead of defending himself, tries to hide his head and does a horrible job of it. Like literally bends at the waist and still is just getting hit in the back of the head. It's like when you're watching your kid do something that they should be. I don't know how to explain this. It's like watching. It's just you want to control his body. When you watch, you're like, dude, just arms up, something, just do something, grab him,
push,
anything, any of these things, kick, push, something, flail. I don't give a shit. Don't simply move your head around.
Yeah, bend down, put your head near his knees.
Like at least throw a shoulder.
And take a fucking knee to the face, bending at the waist.
Very strange. It's so strange. It's so. It was very off-putting just to watch any person. I don't care if it's Jim Jeffries or anybody. Just watch anybody go through that. It's like, oh, dude. Yeah, but.
Well, so what we got coming up next week? In 2 weeks, we got the final chapter of part 1. So Kaladin finally, almost coming to the edge and going to the chasm and then deciding to give it one last shot. And then we'll get into some of the interlude chapters.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I don't really... Just taking a look at one of the interlude chapters, I feel like I was lost when I heard these. Oh, Non-Balat. Okay. All right. So
Non-Balat is Shallan's brother.
Yeah. The Shallan and Yasna chapters get really, really good. I really like the way... Sanderson... really impressed me with his writing once we got into some of those. And I forgot about Wit. That stuff's great.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the interlude chapters too is also the fisherman talking to the three random guys, like, the foreigners from different land that are, looking for somebody. Like, you wouldn't know who those characters are, but I'll go into it when we talk about it because you haven't read the book, so you wouldn't know who they are to begin with. So, and you're not going to read them in the Stormlight archives. So the only way to know is if you read other books or I tell you. So we'll go into that. But yeah, and then Zath's got one. So some good stuff coming up. But we'll keep trying to just keep it to a couple chapters until you're further along in the book. Because like the further you get, the more we can talk about, the more I can I don't have to hold back on things, and you know, the more like this episode, we obviously were able to talk about more, you know, than the previous episodes because you covered.
Yeah.
So we can talk about more aspects of the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there. I'm getting further. I just have a lot of other stuff I'm working on and reading. You know, life. You know, played basketball today. There's other things.
Well,
you know,
say prioritizing fucking everybody else, but the fucking audience and the fans.
I stood it. If every time I went to McDonald's, I wasn't standing in line for 30 minutes, you know, this wouldn't be. I would have more time.
Yeah,
I guess I should start taking the book.
And fucking get all depressed and you can't read.
Well, I would bring the book, but I know, like, I'm trying to get in the mind of Kaladin, so that's why I keep going and putting myself through it.
Yeah. Yeah, you should stop doing that.
It's all for the experience, bro. Like, how do you get there unless, you know, you go through the strife? Kaladin wasn't just born this way. Well, I guess that's debatable.
Yeah, he seems like a fucking depressed kid. Seems like depression is just part of his mind. But yeah, so I think that will do it for this week, and we will be back in a couple weeks. So fucking peace out.
Yep.